You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Welcome to the Trap Talk podcast, episode 290. Woof, 290. I like that. 10 away from 300. But guys, if you're into reptiles, keeping, breeding, admiring, this is the right podcast to be, especially if you're new in the game, been in the game, whatever. If you're into reptiles, this is the best podcast to be a part of because I bring the best in the game, the newest in the game, the most relevant in the game, period. So, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if that's what you're into, then drop a comment. Let me know what you're liking best out of these podcasts. If you listen to me on the audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, make sure you don't forget to also subscribe to me on those platforms as well. Give me a rate and review. Really means a lot. That feedback means a lot to me. And yeah, I just got to say shout out to everyone in the early bird comments. It's going to be a great episode tonight. Very looking forward to tonight's episode because it's long overdue. But before we get into things, I do want to say tonight's episode is brought to you by Freedom Breeder, baby. The original Freedom Breeder stainless steel RHACS of the United States. Shout out to Jesse. Shout out to the entire Freedom Breeder crew. If you got a Freedom Breeder rack, you know where you're at with that. It's professional level of snake keeping and rodent breeding. Been around since the 90s. Good old Freedom Breeder. Seriously, thank you for your love and support, Jesse. I got to say, it means a lot to me, but honestly, to have this brand represent my channel means really the world to me, I got to say, because this is the #1 stainless steel rack company in the game, hands down. Freedom Breeder. I want to also say this episode is brought to you by Focus Cube Habitats, Stephen and Ashley, Flexing, Texas, all day, every day. If you have reptiles, you should put them in a Focus Cube, 110%. They have it all for all your reptile needs. I have a 3-foot snake in a Focus Cube all the way to a 6-foot monitor in a Focus Cube. So I'm telling you right now, guys, this is the best PVC built enclosure company in the game, hands down. Flex in Texas all day, every day. Now, the beauty about these two sponsors is that they actually have worked hand in hand with tonight's guest. So I thought, what an awesome way to show the respect and show the love on both ends. You know what I mean? I love it. Because it is all about the breeder side of things and also the pet keeper side of things, which we're going to that's what we're going to talk about tonight a lot. Let me fix this real quick. Make sure a little bit too bright. There we go. But yeah, guys, also, if you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more than what you see here, especially because I have some stuff moving kind of newer to the Patreon page. I don't want to tell you guys too much, but it would be in your favor. I could tell you right now, especially if you love this podcast, would be in your favor to go to the very first link that you see, okay? And click on the Trap Talk Patreon link. Join the Patreon family. As soon as you get the link to the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which taps you in with over 150 trappers in the game, 150 reptile supporters, people who are really about this, people who really want to take things to the next level. We get together on Sundays for our Zoom calls. It's all face-to-face. We're all here to grow. And yeah, shout out to my Patreon members, man. I love my Patreon members so much. Seriously, I got to say that I've had my Patreon for going on 3 years now, and I've had some people riding with me the entire time. I just feel very blessed. So thank you to my Patreon members. Even if you're new and you're just joining us, still, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You're a part of the family, and we're going to take this shit to the top. I can tell you that right now. If you're looking to see what I have going on other than podcast stuff, make sure you head over to my Instagram page. It's actually Trap Talk God 619. Adler, I'm going to blame Adler for that one. Actually been reading this Trap God 619 for I don't know how long, but it's actually Trap Talk God 619 on Instagram. Very active on there. I post all my, all my projects and whatnot, and even some stuff that I have for sale, like my ball python stuff. So hit me up on Instagram if you need to reach out to me for anything. Hit me up on Instagram, and then go follow the channel's Instagram page as well, the Trap Talk Podcast on Instagram, and then also Facebook. What is good, Facebook? Give me a like, give me a love. What's good? Let's see it cracking from Facebook. If you're on Facebook, head over to the Trap Talk Podcast, hit that like button, and then follow anything you can when it comes to hitting me up on the Trap page on Facebook. Guys, super excited for tonight. I got to say, who's ready? Who's ready to rock and roll? I think there's a lot of people in here who's ready to rock and roll. I got to say, I'm super stoked. Constrictor Connection in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Serpent Eclipse, my boy Adler. Just the guy I need to speak to. I'm just kidding. Adler, you're my dog. Had a good time with this, with him and his family. I got to meet him and his entire family at Pomona Reptile Super Show. It's my boy right here, Adler. Go give him a follow on Instagram. Trap Talk Patreon member also. Big Luke, Lizard Morphs in the building, Australia's finest. Go give this guy a follow on Instagram. Good supporter of mine. Really, like this, if you want to talk about somebody who supports the hobby as a whole and really isn't really here to side, even though he'll side with what's right, my man Luke is probably one of the most positive influences I feel like in the industry, and he's from Australia, man. I wish you lived over in the United States, Luke. We could use your positivity, man. I love you, man. Thanks for all your support. Lizard Morphs, go follow him on Instagram. Welcome to the Grow Tent Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Big Mike, the OG Trap Talk Patreon member. Trap Talk Patreon member number 1 in the building. 1776 Exotics. Big Mike, give him a follow. Matt, what's up, Matt? One of the other trappers who's been supporting me for a while, and also a chondro keeper, has also ball python heat at the same time. This fool is definitely not to be slept on. Go give him a follow on Instagram. Evolution Exotics, my boy Matt. Mark Anderson, what is up, player? And by the way, Matt's, like I said, Patreon member all day, every day, Savage. Mark Anderson, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homegirl Chantel, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thank you so much. She's part of the management team as well. Prolific Pythons, Aaron Letterbetter, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Julio Fulio, what is up, Julio? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Heathen Hatchery, love it, man. Trap Talk Management, Trap Talk Patreon, my boy. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Really means a lot, Brian. Tennessee Constrictors, what's good, Tennessee? I see you. Burnsy B, what's up, Burnsy B? Thanks for tapping in. The homie West from Sunshine State Sulphurs, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Runyon Reptiles, what is up? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Eric's Morph Factory, what is up? The homie Shane from Ricky Bobby SRT, aka Above All Scales. Follow Above All Scales on Instagram right now. This guy right now is putting out great content. Just starting out. Don't sleep on my boy Shane, Above All Scales. Give him a follow, and he does it right. The homie Levi, FTL Reptiles, Sex and Flexing all day, every day. Go give him a follow and go subscribe to his podcast. It's a G right there. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homie Keys, Big Keys, shooting threes all day. Had an amazing podcast. He was funny, bro. I'm not going to lie, man. I shouldn't be admitting this, but I was kind of watching your Bob Vu show last night because I didn't want to watch Blake like squirt out a fucking, a bot fly out of his leg. Anyways, last night, Keys' channel was cracking with Bob Vu. Shout out to this guy. Over 100 people in the building throughout the whole episode. That's what I'm talking about. That's my boy right here. I'm telling you right now, make room for my boy Keys, Reptile World, because I'm telling you, he's not playing this year. It's my dog. Appreciate you, bro. And you got mad support too. Noble Family Geckos, what's up? Thanks for tapping in. Jacob, right here. It's my dog right here. Listen, you know what, Jacob? I feel like I have to do something really bad to lose your support. I'm not trying to brag about that, but this guy right here just rides with me. It's my dog. Seriously, my dog. Can't wait to hug you again. He also killed it at the Reptile Super Show in Pomona. A lot of people killed it at Pomona. I'm not going to lie, but this guy right here is just on a roll with shows when it comes to the Reptile Super Show. So if you are considering going to Anaheim, which I think you should, and you should go to Pomona, you should go to any Reptile Super Show because that's where you could go see Jacob's heat. I'm telling you right now, Civil Serpents in the building. Appreciate you, dog. Trap Talk Patreon member, the professor of the family. And now we're to the shooter of the family, Dennis of Serpent Smiths, Trap Talk Patreon member, head of Trap Security. It's my dog right here. Go give him a follow. Brandon Hernandez, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. JP Red. JP! Oh, look who it is! Oh, man. Can we give it up for my man JP from JP Reptiles, Canada? JP, I got to talk to you soon, buddy. I miss you, man. JP, man. Go give him a follow. You should. I already know Canada already fucks with JP. I'm telling you right now, this guy's just killing it. This guy's just killing it. Thanks for being here, Jordan. Really means a lot. And I hope fatherhood's going good for you, buddy. This guy's a dad. This guy has so many positive things going in his direction right now. I'm so happy for him. And yeah, it was actually good catching up with you, Jordan. We still need to talk more, and go give my boy a follow. Galaxy Reptiles, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Steven Desert Mojave Morse. This fool right here pulled up the pulled up the Trap Talk booth at the pulled up to my booth at the Reptile Super Show in Pomona. Desert Mojave Morphs. Go give him a follow on Instagram. You know what? We're going to end this right now in style because why not? How does it get better and bigger than my dog, Rami, from the Reptile Super Show, the guy responsible for the biggest show on the West Coast, okay? Probably the biggest show in the country, attendance-wise. Just saying, I don't have the numbers, but I got to say, by far, one of the leaders in the industry. He's what brings everything together. and that is Rami from the Reptile Super Show. Big salute to you, buddy. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone who works at the Reptile Super Show. The whole team over there is something else. So I got to say thank you so much. And also go follow Donnie. I do have a Twitch account. I'm just trying to stream, man. Also, guys, if you want to support this channel, you could also send a super chat. If you have a super chat, if you have a topic for Caila, okay, if there's something you really want to get out there, if there's something that you want to address and you want to make sure that I catch it, best thing you can do is drop a super chat like my boy, Ricky Bobby SRT from Above All Scales. And I got to say thank you to my boy Shane for getting this thing going and getting it moving. And yeah, shit's going to be cracking off. By the way, be ready for this guy right here. I'm not going to tell you when, but he's coming soon. Zach Stumper, the homie. What is good? All right, guys. Well, listen, I've caught, 9 minutes, 10 minutes deep into this. I think it's game time. I think it's about that time we bring our guest on for episode 290. There's so much buildup behind this. And for anyone who doesn't know, well, you know what? We're going to talk about it together. I don't even know why even prep. Enough is enough. Guys, we have with us tonight Caila from Canada and also the head honcho over at Jube and Friends. So, guys, it's going down. Get something to stay hydrated. Episode 290 coming at you right now.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And she's here. Caila, episode 290. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I feel like this is a long time coming for sure.
Yeah, listen, why don't we just start this off properly? We're here to build a bridge, you and I. We have to, and I want to be the first one to lay some sort of foundation down, if that's okay with you. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Honestly, I've just been chuckling back here. You're so energized tonight. Yeah. You kind of got me rolling back here.
Well, I mean, topics for tonight is what got me so excited. But, I was excited when we originally talked. I want to say, when was it when you and I first talked and we had agreed to bringing you on the show to talk about what your situation was then? How long ago was that? Do you remember?
I think it was last June or July. So like June or July 2022. Seems
a lot longer for some reason, but still, okay. Like, regardless, there was a plan that we had, and I was excited to bring you on, Caila. Let me tell you why, because nobody really talks or has anything to really say on the topic of NIDO and ball pythons. It's mainly related, from what I've seen out of the last 5 years. It's all related to chondros and green tree pythons, and never really discussed within the ball python. So this was an exciting episode. Now, mind you, because of the drama going on then, I did have intentions as far as wanting to bring you on when, hear me out, when you were being not shamed, but people didn't want to hear you out, and all you had were facts to present. Okay. I thought it was kind of crazy how you were kind of getting ganged up on when you really had facts to present. Didn't understand that part. Okay. So regardless, I was excited to bring you on the show to kind of talk about the facts, because you sent me the facts, and boy, did I read them. I do NIDO testing. I know what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? So I see you have enough behind what you are, what we're trying to do an episode about. Now, mind you, something happened on the other end of things, which made me feel like what we were originally going to do wasn't going to be, I didn't think it was be authentic. I thought because you made amends of what was going on, that you just didn't want to talk about certain things. And so honestly, I shut you out, and I didn't want to have the episode whatsoever. And I want to say sorry, first and foremost, for kind of leading you on, because it was kind of like you didn't see it coming, and it was just kind of just like sudden, and that I'm sorry for. And then also sorry about kind of referring to you on an episode and definitely, I would say I don't like the term bully. I don't like it. I really don't. I think it's like, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, it's a word, crazy word to say, right? Because I'm really all about positivity for the most part, but I am who I am. But I gotta say, if anyone got bullied here, I feel like it was you, okay? And because I just, for whatever reason, I didn't want to give you a voice. And because I have that platform, sometimes I have to make a decision. And I don't feel like I made a right decision. The decision I made was more selfish and more a way to kind of get back at you because you did what you did as far as making that amends. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate you coming on here and saying something and having me on the show, because I think that shows a lot of candor, and it shows that you do want to mend relationships and stuff like that. And I'm a very firm believer in open communication. That's why I was actually the one to reach out to you to try to mend this.
Okay. Yeah, you did. You did send me voice messages. Correct. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's just been a lot of things said, and I'm not here to speak for the community tonight.
Right.
I'm here to mend something between you and I.
100%.
And anything that you have to do with other people, I mean, that's between you and them. But I'm more than happy to move forward. I think that there's been a lot of misinformation around my brand and what I represent. And that's something that I would greatly like to clear up tonight.
100%. Well, listen, I feel like we just made our first step forward. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's going to be a fun episode. So yeah. I don't want this to be a drudgery. No. I had quite a few people sending me messages that were like, yeah, get him. And I said, I'm not here to be your judge, jury, and executioner. I'm here to try to be your friend. And that's all I've ever wanted. So let's move forward. Let's do things right. And let's do things better for the industry.
I think that's the best part. Let's do better. I just want to do better by the industry. Because if you could, before we tap into things here, that's all we can all do better, right? Like, here's the thing. Like, as much as I'm prideful of the animals behind me, there's so many things I know I could do better. And it's just, that's why I love what we do. We can always do better. There's people who've been doing this, Caila, their whole life, and they're still switching things up. Like,
you have to. It's an ever-evolving process. If we're sitting here and we're just doing the same things that we did 30 years ago, we're not really evolving as an industry, are we? We're just sitting here, we're just regurgitating things. We should always be elevating our husbandry for the animals.
Right. Now, listen, I want to go through things here. Me and Caila, we game plan this. We've got a little outline that we're going to be kind of flowing through here. And I just want to make sure we cover everything about you, Caila, because this is your episode. This is your time. And I have questions. I want to know more about you because, everything has a reason behind it. And what I mean by that, like, shoot, I mean, I could tell you my first experience with the snake that made me always think about a snake. Right now with you, with the animals, is this a childhood thing for you, or did this come late? How far did you and the relationship with the animal go? I'm curious. Reptiles.
Reptile. Okay. Right. So yeah, because I grew up actually owned a horse ranch, so I am the weird horse girl. So grew up with that. Never actually had an interest in reptiles. So I've actually just been in the reptile industry for about we're in the new year now, so it's about 6 or 7 years. Oh, wow. And I actually came from aquatics before that. So I always say that it's been longer than it has, because I kind of put aquatics and the reptile industry in the same bundle. But I actually bred and kept fancy goldfish all throughout high school and university. That was my thing with high-end Ryukin, pearl scale, all of that.
Wow. The fish game. I heard. I mean, you were pretty young, right? So did you have any experience in the fish game as an adult or no?
A little bit. So in university, I was really big. I was a part of the, I live in Kitchener, Ontario. So I was a part of the Kitchener-Waterloo Aquarium Society. I would actually bring my fish and show them in person. And it's a really crazy kind of industry with everyone setting up tanks and showing off their fish. And I had one Ryukin in particular named Gobbles. I'm always very good with the names. And I also had another Ryukin named Mr. Puddles. And Gobbles and Mr. Puddles, they were big for me. And when they ended up passing away, They ended up getting swim bladder, which,
That.
fancy goldfish do just because of their body structure. So they ended up passing away, and I got really heavy into pearl scales. I moved to bettas. After I graduated, I moved to bettas for a couple years, and then I just kind of wanted something that wouldn't destroy my water bill in my house, and B, because I was poor after school, so I'm like, yeah, we can't afford this. Right. And B, I wanted something that was like more tangible, something that you could actually hold and interact with in a different way. So I kind of moved over to the ball pythons after that.
And what year was that?
I don't know. Back in like
not that old. Come on. You're not that old.
No, maybe back in like, I don't know, 2015, 2016. So like somewhere around there. I didn't really know anything about snakes, and I ended up joining this meme group on Facebook called Snek the Hissing Booth. And that's where the whole Jube the Snek thing comes from. And I know it makes people hostile that I still have that as my username. Right. But it's just an ode to the fact that I ended up getting Jube while I was in this Snek the Hissing Booth group, which had like 53,000 followers or something. And I ended up starting to post pictures of him in there, and people started to make like memes out of him and stuff. So the whole Instagram was pretty much created just to be like, hail Jube. And then it turned into this massive community.
And that's what I feel like is the important part of everything, right? Like, regardless what anyone has to say, like there's people who enjoyed what you were doing, and that kind of what I feel like the biggest bridge between keeper and a breeder is that sometimes breeders don't have not really the energy, but they have so many snakes that they can't really build a relationship with them because it's just water feed. In your aspect, like this is something that gives you like a therapeutic like companionship. So like naming it, I mean, I have don't here's the thing. I have I name my favorites. My favorites are named. I got to be honest, right? But I just don't understand why that's a problem. If somebody wants to name their snake or I mean, yeah, it's I guess it's cringy for the people who are just here to do snakes and whatnot. But man, whatever floats your boat, man. Like I don't like if people like it. Like if people, why not share things that other people will like too? Like it just doesn't have to be a one-way street. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I do want to address in the comments, Mariah is a close friend of mine. Mariah, I got Jube much before 2018. 2018, 2019 was actually, I know for sure when I started getting deeper into the industry. So actually, I got my first rack then and stuff like that. So I had Jube much prior. I think it probably would have been around 2016 that I ended up getting him. 2016 or 2017, maybe. It's hard. I don't really pay attention to the years, but.
All right, back to as far as like your growth here with the animals, because you graduated college when were you done with school?
Dude, you're asking me all these dates. I don't know. I'm old. I'm like 31.
I'm 37, bro. Come on, you need to chill. You're not that old, Caila. Don't be saying 31's old. You're gonna make some people feel weird out there.
You're like my grandpa, baby. I don't know. I have no idea when I graduated university, like maybe 2012, like 2013.
Okay. So and I'm just curious, obviously you said times were tough, which times are tough for a lot of college students straight out of college, right? So what was the 9 to 5 that really kind of got you on your feet? Like what do you do and whatnot? I'm curious.
So when I first got out of university, I graduated with an English major, and I have a religion minor. And the only reason that I have that religion minor is so that I can dispute to people why religion is a little wacky. So I don't know. I just wanted to get it so that I could have proper arguments with people. So I am an English major, and I was going to be a teacher, but then I kind of figured out when I did my co-op placement that I wasn't a big fan of kids. So that didn't really work out. So when I graduated, I ended up, I did a master's program in business. And then I worked for a bank for a couple years. I actually worked for Ally Bank in the US. I'm sure that you've heard of them.
Yep. 100%.
Yep. So I worked for Ally Bank. So they're like purely an online bank, which was interesting because there's a lot of certificates of deposit and stuff like that. And then I ended up starting my own company. In 2014, I started my own company. I do know the date for that one. So I started a video game collectibles business.
Oh.
And as of right now, my business is the leading wholesaler of Pokemon plush in all of Canada.
And
So
do you have like a page for this? I'm just curious while we're talking about this. I'm curious if you have like any kind of like anything we could look at. I'm curious.
For sure. There's a page on Facebook. It's called Rony's Video Game Collectibles.
Rony's? How do you spell Rony?
ROANY''S. Video game collectibles with an I.
Video game collectibles. Okay, go ahead. Continue. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, that kind of evolved. I don't have a physical storefront, so I just do conventions. I do Anime North. I do Fan Expo Canada every year. I'm a broker as well. So I import everything from the Pokemon Center in Tokyo and bring in really cool products that you can't find anywhere else. Yeah, there's my clients' kids with. Oh,
so you get basically like real deal Pokemon like type of like this is stuff you can't even get in the United States.
Yes. So I am not immune to anything over in that industry either, because there has been so much back and forth with me having to actually advocate for people not selling bootleg products of this stuff. Because we had people giving the knockoff Pokemon to their kids and they had like fiberglass in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the kids were putting them in their mouth or whatever, and people were getting sick from them. And people were finding sewing needles and all kinds of stuff in there.
What?
So, yeah, it's really cool. People don't think about it. So I started Rony's. It began as a community for gamers to just come and chat. And then it ended up turning into this huge business where essentially we're Canada's largest retailer of official Pokemon Center products.
Damn, like, okay, since obviously you know like the level of this, how are you compared to what's in America? Like, is America's stuff pretty good over here, or are you even like ahead of America? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so America's really good. It's a lot easier and a lot less expensive to import stuff into America. And when we talk about business, I don't think that clients really have a good idea of how much actually goes into getting one of these products. And in the US, when you're ordering this stuff from Japan, you're actually paying in USD. So you guys don't have to worry about the foreign exchange. You don't have to worry about all these duties. You do have very high shipping fees, but definitely not as high as ours. The import taxes, all of this stuff that has to be dealt with to get it into Canada. Right. And I like to be very forward with my customers. I think that that's why I have such a large customer base that are returning, because I'm very open about profit margins, which is something that a lot of businesses don't talk about. And I say, look, here's actually what this product cost me. Here's what went into getting the product. So this is why it's priced at where it's at. And I think a lot of customers like that because they get to learn about how the business works and everything that I have to do and all the work on my end to actually bring these products into Canada.
I'm going to make somebody very happy right now because he keeps telling me that if I don't wear headphones, I don't know when I click or when I don't hear myself. So I'm going to put headphones on. Are you okay with that?
Sure. It's fine by me.
All right. So back to what you were saying here, because at the end of the day, like this is the big reason why you could do what you do with your snakes. And we're going to kind of get into why you go the extra mile, right? And that's what you do. You go the extra mile for your animals. The thing is, it's for an animal that a lot of people don't feel like needs all that extra, but who are we to say, right? Because to each their own. So what I want to talk about now is how did you get into the whole idea of getting ball pythons first and foremost? Like what was that? Like what was that crossroad? I'm curious. Let's talk about that real quick.
You're going to make the people in the comments hate me because I thought they were cute, MJ.
I think people would assume that. Caila, no disrespect, but I'm pretty sure everyone out there was like, well, she thinks they're cute, duh. And
I think they're really cute. Okay, so there's
put hats on them. I know what you do with your ball pythons. It's okay. So I want other people to say that they think their ball pythons are cute too. We should just be more open about this.
Yes. So I do not force them against their will to wear the hats. Jube wears the hat willingly. That's the sheriff you're talking about, okay?
Oh,
so ball pythons. Honestly, I don't have a good reason why I got into ball pythons. I just think they're cute. I do have a great appreciation for other reptiles. Actually, lizard morphs. I ended up following him today, and I sent him a message back.
Pause, Caila. No disrespect. You just now started following Luke from Lizard Morphs?
I didn't know he existed. I didn't know.
The guy has viral videos. He's like,
I'm sorry. I don't know anything about lizards.
But you know Chris Eaton. That's Chris Eaton's boy. Like Chris Eaton, like he put. I feel like Chris Eaton to me put Luke on the map. And I've been following Luke, I think, since mid last year. But anyways, Luke is awesome. Like I'm telling you right now.
Don't make me feel bad, okay?
No.
I sent him a message today, and I said, I'm gonna follow you. I said, but I know nothing about lizards, so hopefully I learned something. There's just not really another reptile that has appealed to me in the same way as a ball python. Primarily just because I really enjoy their temperament. I think that they're a great pet snake for someone looking to get into the industry. And that's probably why they are the most traded, bought and sold pet snake in the industry. And I think that they're, the morphs are very interesting as well. Like we have over 5,000 different color morphs. And just because I'm not a breeder, I would like to say that I'm pretty well versed in the morphs, and I do enjoy dabbling on that side of the thing, on that side of the industry, the thing. Sorry, and I like seeing a really well-bred animal. I really enjoy when we look at amazing examples of morphs. I'm a firm believer that I don't think that we should be breeding subpar animals in the hobby. I think that we should only be passing on the best genetics and breeding those animals. So it's amazing to me to see all of the things that people are creating and all of the new patterns and stuff that are coming out. It's awesome. I love the breeder end of things. I just I'm not in it myself.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because we're going to kind of open that up a little bit. You know, as far as you've been in this game for 6 years, you said now, right? And I just mean, as far as being involved with reptiles, you could have easily chosen to breed at this point if you wanted to, but for some reason, you're just happy doing your thing with how you have things, right? And I'm curious, what have you maybe collected evidence-wise, or just maybe like experience to make you not ever want to breed? Because here's the thing, like, we could use more good breeders. I could tell you that much, right? And if somebody like you, and this is no pressure to want to breed. I'm just speaking out loud, right? I'm just saying that people like you who want to take the extra steps are the kind of example the breeding industry needs. They are like me. Like why did I have to be one of the first ones? And I'm not trying to give myself any championship belts here, but why am I the first one to ever say that weekly water changes is an issue? Like, hello, like, are you kidding me? Like, for how many years did people think giving fresh water once every 7 days is okay? I don't understand. That is insane. But anyways, but like, I'm glad nobody pushed me back on that, because like, how can you? And I feel like the way you have things, like the way you've experienced your reptiles are, I feel like, reasons why you don't care what anyone says. You have your ball pythons the way you do because that's what makes you happy. And like I said, I want to talk about what made you want to go that route versus just not even breeding. I'm curious. Let's talk about that.
So I might be interested in joining the game later on. I do actually have 2 females that I'm growing up. So we'll see how that goes. They are JD Constriction's line of
you're talking about John JD?
Yeah.
That's the man right there. Okay.
Yeah. His snakes are beautiful. I love the TSK Xanthic line. Now, I also love the MJ line, not your line, but
listen. I love hearing that, but then I'm like, wait a minute. You know that's Marcus Jane. Marcus Jane. But anyways, shout out to Marcus Jane. I love him.
Now, I think that Marcus Jane actually has the best line of lightning pieds. So his Xanthic pieds, I think, to me, look much better than the TSK pieds. But I like the TSK with calico. I like it with spot nose. I love it with all of that stuff. And so right now I have two full sisters. They're both from the same clutch. Okay. I have a Firefly TSK Xanthic and a Fire Bee TSK Xanthic. And I'm just letting them slow grow. Whatever happens, happens. But maybe I would consider pairing them in the future. But I would need a good male for them. It would be another investment.
So this is good. This is awesome. So breeding isn't like against you. Like, there's nothing against breeding because, Caila, let's be honest. You had people in your DMs thinking you were going to come at me and put me in my place, right? With all due respect. And maybe you should have, but I'm just saying maybe people wanted that, but that's not the case. Well, I got to tell you, I had breeders hit me up, giving me the heads up that if I didn't know what you stood for. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm not going to say there was a bunch of people there, but there were a couple people who told me that you've been on podcasts before, like bioactive, like really pro bioactive pod. And this is just what I've heard, but very
that was my reaction as soon as you said bioactive.
Yeah. I'm glad. I mean, if this is out there, then please tell me. Cause like I said, this is all secondhand information or could be third party. I don't know, but that you were on a podcast that's very against like breeding and putting snakes in tubs. I'm not saying that you were shitting on them, but I'm just serious. Like, cause some people have that look of you that you're against breeding. And I'm like, well, how? She has a lot of breeder friends. So that's one thing I want to clear up.
For sure. So actually, I do have a lot of people that tell me that I'm flippy floppy, and I try not to be. I always tell people, no, I'm just intelligent enough to sit between both sides of the industry. So I can see how and why breeders need to do things. We're looking at things from a business perspective. There has to be productivity, and there has to be a certain way of doing things that's conducive to the business. Right. But on the pet side of things, we have our animals and we love them, and we just really want to have a nice display animal that we can enjoy having a bond with. So I do sit in between the two industries, and I think that or the two sides of the industry, I should say. And I think that gets confusing at some points for people because there's not a lot of people who do that. Usually you're very adamantly for the breeding side, or you're very adamantly for the pet keeper side.
Very heavy. It's very heavy one or the other. You're right.
Yes. Yeah. It's hard because we don't really have someone kind of going between both sides. And that was my entire goal. Even that I talked with Jesse about at Freedom Breeder when we started, we'll talk about that later. Right. When we started talking about doing these big boa RHACS for the ball pythons, because I said, I would like to bridge that gap between the breeders and the keepers, and showcase how these animals can thrive in both ways. Now, the podcast that I just did, I actually thought was great. It definitely was focused more on the things that I don't particularly like in the breeding industry.
If you don't mind, who's the podcast that you're on?
It's Animals at Home.
And I got to say, I'm very happy with my background. He has a really cool background too. Like, he has all his animals, and I haven't dived deep into his stuff, but seems like he takes really good care of his stuff from what I've seen.
He does. Yeah. Dylan's a really nice guy. He's also Canadian.
So Canadian, eh?
Yeah. So he invited me on to talk about this stuff, and it was hard. I didn't really get to go into the side of what the pet keepers do wrong. And he kind of wants to do a secondary episode on that. But we did get to talk about my experience having snakes that were retired breeders that were kept in breeding facilities for an extended period of time. And then they were brought to my place and transitioned into something larger, and kind of the struggles that I've had to go through with that process. So when we talk about that, I consider those two sides far removed from the advancing herp side of things. And this was a whole third culture that I really didn't know existed, but they really came out of the woodwork. and they were upset. They didn't think that my RHACS systems, a lot of people, they didn't think that the RHACS were good enough because they didn't provide UV, they didn't provide overhead heating, and all of this stuff. And I'm sitting here going like, whoa, there's a lot going on in this industry here with these ball pythons. I will say why I do not like bioactive for this species. I'm very sure that I could learn from someone who does it well.
Right.
I think that every single animal is an individual. So some animals, some ball pythons, we'll focus specifically, are going to thrive in that and they'll be perfectly fine. But with bioactive, it goes against everything that they would do in their natural habitat. And we have Justin Kabilka, he tells us, he did a whole article on when snakes go off feed. The best thing that you can do is fully clean out their tub, wash everything down, give the snake a bath, and put it back in, because it gets all of that residual smell off of them. And that's what we would do, and that's what they would do in the wild. So they would be moving from one burrow as soon as they defecate, so they urate and they poop, or they shed. Obviously, this is a crepuscular ambush predator. So no.
Time out. I was going to promise myself if she dropped any word that you don't know, you're going to ask it. Crepuscular. Oh, I'm sorry. What the hell did you just say right now? I need to write this one down. I want to learn. What word was that? What did you just say?
Crepuscular. So a lot of people think that Python regis is nocturnal. They are not. They are a crepuscular species, which means that they are more active during dawn and dusk.
I like that. I like that word. That's a sick ass word.
Crepuscular. So we have a crepuscular ground dwelling species that they are an ambush predator. So they are sitting and waiting for their prey to come along to them. Now, is prey going to come along if the prey can smell where the snake has been? No. So this is why we change out the bedding. This is why we do these things, not just to keep them clean, but it's exactly what they would do in the wild. They would move to a different burrow or a different location if their one area smells, because a rat or a bird or nothing is going to come by there if that prey can smell the predator. That doesn't make sense. Bioactive, we are forcing the animal to actually sit in its feces and urates until a cleanup crew, like isopods or whatever you have, springtails, until the cleanup crew comes and cleans everything up. Now, I don't believe in bioactive because I don't think that waiting for a cleanup crew to clean your snake and just having everything function on its own, maybe if you had a zoo-sized enclosure, but in a tight captivity setting, I just don't think that that's conducive to the animal's natural behaviors.
Now, here's the thing. I know ball pythons are tolerable, and what I mean by that, they're a sturdy snake. If the snake is healthy, if this snake is smashing food, shedding, dude, you could do whatever the hell you want with this snake. Does the snake really enjoy it? We don't know. The snake can't tell us. But what I'm trying to say is, I know a couple things about ball pythons.
Yep.
I know a happy ball python is a left alone ball python for sure, because they are just naturally scared. Their defense is hiding. Okay. So they just don't want any interaction with anything. I feel like personally, I feel like snakes in general. I feel like snakes in general don't want nothing to do with nobody unless it's food or, doing the dirty. But at the end of the day, snakes are smart enough to become tolerable. They become like, they know, okay, this isn't a threat, right? And that's where I feel like you got to let people do if the snake is eating, doing its thing, if the owner wants to take it out, put a little hat on it and take pictures of it, and it goes back in and it's a healthy snake, then God bless, dude, who cares? Because, at the end of the day, like my buddy Socrates, this guy right here, man, he's my best friend for sure. And he's helped me with so many different things in life, but his daughter swims, like not swims, but she takes baths with their ball pythons, like not soap that harms it, but she'll be in her bathtub with ball pythons.
That's not really good, but
right. But like, who are we to say, like, we're just like, nothing against you, buddy. If that snake is still eating and healthy, then, like I said, it's like, it's funny. I'm glad that you even thought like, well, I wouldn't do that. But like, here we are, like, we can't really judge at all. Like if the snake is eating and doing its thing and it's healthy, then that's all that matters. And I feel like the biggest thing that you've had to go through within the last year is having to deal with people telling you you don't care for your animal, you're not doing it right, when you're purposely making chores longer for yourself. You're purposely you know that there's a challenge ahead of you, but you're doing everything in your power to make sure nothing ends up on your end as far as neglect or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I just want to interject on you for 1 minute.
Sure, please.
But I do think that there's a difference between what I'm doing versus someone on TikTok, let's say, putting their ball python in a bathtub. I'm sure we've all seen that video of the one ball python like spinning around in the tub. I'm the first person to comment on that stuff and say, like, how dare you? Because I consider that's abuse to me. Putting a ball python in a tub where it has nothing to climb onto and it's panicking. Yeah. There's a difference between having your animal in panic mode versus doing something a little bit different with them that's still conducive to their well-being.
And like, it's kind of clear when there's an animal stress, defecation, it's running away. It's like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if my buddy saw these kind of signs, he would be smart enough to be like, you can't do this with the animal. Now, mind you, I still feel like putting ball pythons with my kid in the bath, I think I would pass on that, but I'm not judging him. Like, he's helped me out in so many things in life. So I just, do your thing as long as you feel like it's right by the animal. If the animal's healthy, it's eating, that's what matters. But kind of going back to your very first run-in with an illness, okay? And how that, like, first and foremost, how is that something you discovered? And what were the steps taken once you discovered you had an illness within your ball python collection?
So I had never actually had a respiratory infection in my collection. Everything had been healthy. At the time, it was in 2020, and it was just as we had put the snakes in the bigger freedom breeder racks. And I had a lot of breeders and a lot of people telling me that the snakes were going to get stressed out going in there. They were going to get sick. They weren't going to eat. And I was like, no, I know my animals. I've had them for a while. And I said, I think they'll be fine. Obviously, transitioning enclosures, you're going to have some level of stress, but it shouldn't be to a point where the animals are falling ill over it. But to my surprise, I had 2 of them that did. And September of 2020 was when I first noticed that 2 of my ball pythons had respiratory infections. How
bad? I'm sorry, Caila, but like, I've seen respiratory infections. So how bad were they? How severe were the respiratory? Was it light? Did it go from light to extreme? What was it like? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I first noticed my pied. So my pied's name was Cinnamon Bun, and the other snake's name was Darth. And Darth was actually Kyle's snake. He had Darth and has Luke's Sneckwalker.
Who's Kyle?
Kyle is my significant other.
Oh, shout out to Kyle.
He's not here, but so that was his snake. And with Cinnamon Bun, he was an older snake, so it hit him quite hard compared to Darth, who was a younger snake. And so I do want to state that both those animals had NIDO virus. And it was interesting to note how the same viral strain actually affected those 2 animals completely differently. So we had Darth, who pretty much, ever since I brought him home, he always had a little bit of excess saliva, but it was always, even when I spoke with the breeder about it, it was always chalked up to, oh, your humidity is just not where mine is, or, just an excuse. And he never looked ill. He always looked fine. Just that little bit of excess saliva. And Cinnamon Bun I had for a while. And he was one of my first snakes along with Jube. And he had never been ill. Like he went through my mistakes when I first kind of started. So he was always good. And as soon as I moved them into the larger enclosures, I think just their immune systems tanked just due to the stress. It was kind of like a situation.
So, and again, remind me, there was no symptoms going into the big enclosure.
No, none. Except, again, Darth having the little bit of excess saliva, but he had always had that. And it wasn't bubbly. It wasn't anything.
It was just droopy, like
No, it was just like, yeah, if you popped his mouth. So I do monthly mouth checks on my animals. I always have. So
what are you looking for, Caila, with these mouth checks?
So normally I'm looking just to make sure that they don't have a piece of substrate stuck in there or anything, because I use cypress mulch. So just want to make sure that we don't have any infections or anything like that. So I do pop the mouth open, and I always just noticed that maybe it was like one little string at the back or a couple strings or something like that. It was never anything crazy. But Cinnamon Bun, when we moved him into the big Freedom Breeders and Darth, I noticed that both animals became ill. Cinnamon Bun really tanked. He went downhill quite fast, and I ended up taking him to the vet. They prescribed ceftazidime for once every 3 days for 3 weeks. And Darth, I didn't take him because honestly, I didn't notice him at the same time as Cinnamon Bun. I kind of noticed him like 2 or 3 weeks after. And at that point, Cinnamon Bun was really bad, like really, really bad. He was like open mouth breathing, even with the medication. He had his like head stuck up on the tub because I had quarantined both of them.
Right.
And
he was putting his head back because the mucus and all that.
Yeah, because he couldn't breathe. Just how bad it was with Cinnamon Bun is I actually took him to a secondary vet just because the first vet didn't seem to have a lot of reptile knowledge. So I took them to a secondary vet, Waterloo West. And the vet there, he was from Florida, and he told me he had no idea how Cinnamon Bun was still alive. That's how bad he was. So
you had Cinnamon. Excuse me. You had Cinnabon. Cinnamon? Did I say Cinnamon Bun?
Yeah, Cinnamon Bun.
I don't know why your names are so hard for me. I don't get it, but Cinnamon Bun. How long have you had Cinnamon Bun before you started seeing the symptoms?
Maybe like a year or two, maybe. I don't know.
And then
before I saw symptoms, I had him for like at least 2.5 years before he got sick at all.
So Darth, when did Darth come into the picture?
About 6 months before everyone got sick.
So Darth came into the picture 6 months before, and then you told me that there was a time where they went from one place to the next. So where did you move Cinnabon? It was in what? It was in a cage, or it was in a RHACS system. Where'd you have him in?
So Cinnamon Bun had always been in an Exoterra glass tank beside Jube Jube.
Okay.
And Darth, when he came in, I had probably had Darth a little bit longer than that. Again, it's hard. This is like so long ago now, right?
Right.
But when I brought Darth in, he went through the typical 3-month quarantine at that point. So he was in a 41 quart tub, and then I ended up moving him into another Exoterra, so another glass tank. So Darth was pretty much on his own as well. So we had like Jube Jube, Darth, Cinnamon Bun, and then we had all of my other snakes in another rack. It wasn't like a quarantine rack.
So I always look at this, right? Because, there's always, I've talked to a lot of people in the chondro community who've had this case happen to them. They get a new snake, months later, something goes down, then the next thing goes down, and then eventually everything goes down, but that one snake stays alive still. And you're like, what the hell? Like, this is from what I've heard, right?
Yeah.
Let's kind of take things back as much as you can, right? The way you feed your snakes, do they have separate forceps? Do they?
Yeah. So my snakes are all fed. I have a system with my snakes. So as of right now, all of the snakes that have been NIDO virus tested 3 times at least, they actually all get fed first. Okay. And then my snakes that have only had 1 NIDO virus test, they get fed last. And then whoever came in the last, right now would be my high orange dream calico. He's the one that gets fed last. And that's kind of always the way that I've done it, except with Darth, when he came in, we only feed frozen thawed. So when he came in, he was on live, and I was attempting to transition him onto frozen thawed. And this wasn't just me dangling the rat at Darth. It takes a lot more fomite than that. What I would do is I would actually blow dry the frozen thawed rat and I would leave it in his hide. So of course, I'm sure that where the urates were and there was probably stuff. And then you never think about it because everybody in the community talks about how they share rats between snakes. And Cinnamon Bun was my garbage pile snake. Like he would just eat everything. So he was the only snake that I had cross-contamination, like from point A, Darth, to point B, Cinnamon Bun. And I would take the rat out of Darth's cave and I would feed it to Cinnamon Bun once every 2 weeks. Whenever Darth rejected it, which was fairly frequently, I would take it and I would feed it to Cinnamon Bun. So bad Caila, it's my fault that I killed the pied. I did. I know that. I'll never forgive myself for it. For the sake of saving $4 or $5 on rats, that's stupid. But lot of people.
Hold on, Caila. You're taking fault for you feeding the rat to that snake, and that's why you killed it. But really, like you didn't know though. Like that's the thing. Like that's not really.
I didn't know. I thought we were.
You should be sorry if you did know, but you didn't know. That's not like. That's a fucking that's a really fucked up position or situation to be in.
Yeah, it's hard because I had never heard of NIDO virus, and it's not something that anyone really has talked about since
especially in the ball python game, like I was saying, especially ball pythons, nobody talks about it. But
nobody talks about it. So I thought even when I was bringing animals in and quarantining them, we were quarantining for the typical like heavy RI symptoms and mites. I didn't think that there were viral infections that were going around. I had never heard of any of this. And so long story short, when I took them to the other vet, I took both of them to the new vet. And they were both given enrofloxacin or Baytril. And a bacterial culture was done on Darth, because we were trying to pinpoint what kind of bacteria this was, because the ceftazidime did nothing for Cinnamon Bun. Right. And his bacterial culture came back completely fine. He had a little bit of elevated flora in the mouth, which is normal. And there was nothing abnormal with this. He looked like a perfectly healthy snake, except for the RI symptoms. And this is where we have with NIDO virus, these animals that you're treating, and they get better, and then they get worse, and they get better, and they get worse. And it's because what happens is the medication is treating that secondary infection that the snake has, but you have that initial lung deterioration from the actual virus, and there's no treating that. It's there. NIDO virus cannot be cleared. It has never been cured.
That's the thing. I think snakes who get it could handle it for so long, and that's what it is. And some handle it better than others. That's why when people don't see a problem or they don't see any symptoms, they think they're fine. But it's just a matter of time. It's literally just a matter of time.
And I think that there's a huge common misconception that if you get NIDO virus, it's going to wipe your entire collection, and that is not the case. Right. So let's use Cinnamon Bun and Darth as an example. So I euthanized those animals at the vet humanely in January of 2021 when we found out that they were positive. And the only way that I even found out about that was I was so frustrated in November, December of 2020 that I reached out to Sieve's veterinary clinic. And Dr. Stahl, he pretty much wrote the book on veterinary medicine. And I reached out to him in Virginia and I said, I have 2 ball pythons. And I said, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do with these animals, because I said, I just keep medicating them and they just will not get better. And they wrote me back. The vet there wrote me back. And they said, you need to be reaching out to Fish Head Labs and you need to be testing these animals for NIDO virus, because they said, we are seeing it in every other pet ball pythons, breeder ball pythons. They said, it's coming through our clinic like wildfire. And so that's what I did. That's how my whole relationship with Fish Head started, was I reached out to Pia Bartolini and Dr. Susan Fogelson. And I said, we need to find a way to get these tests across the border so that I can test these animals, because we didn't have testing here in Canada at that point. So tons of CITES paperwork later, I ended up sending the tests back to Fish Head, overnighting them via FedEx, and Cinnamon Bun and Darth both came back positive. And I remember calling up Pia and I said, what does this mean? And she said, well, the pied is extremely symptomatic. And she said, once he gets to that point, he has significant lung deterioration. So she said, I would recommend euthanasia. And she said, the other snake, he's younger. And she said, if you decide to keep him, she said, you're going to have to quarantine him forever. And I said, I can't risk my other animals to do that. So I ended up, I had both of them euthanized. And I had a lot of people, when I started talking about this, they were like, I want proof, I want this. And I just kind of have always sat here and I said, I've provided what I can provide. And
I'm sorry, Caila, proof of what though? I'm like, what are they pressing you to get proof of? And who's like, was this like because here's the thing, we haven't talked about this. It's awesome that you got to have the relationship you have now with Pia, because Pia is a godsend to this reptile industry. She's freaking amazing, right? But it's unfortunate that on the breeder side of things, you didn't get the support and you got a lot of heat, right? And I'm not saying from every breeder, but from a good percentage of the breeders.
Yes.
Were these the ones asking you for proof? I'm just curious. And what kind of proof were they asking? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but there was the video with Lord Lion, and I like Lord Lion very much as a person. I want to say that I think he's a very nice guy, and I don't think really that he was super educated on this either, which is why I say communication is so important. I wish that we could have all just talked about it, but
I agree.
Like in that situation, there was a lot of statements like, this is just a hater. This is someone who doesn't have proof. And I'm sitting over here and I'm like, we have, on one hand, we have science with multiple tests on every single animal in my collection. And on the other hand, we have someone's reputation. And I said, as much as you like a particular breeder, that doesn't mean that they have a magical shield that's going to protect them from viral infections. 100%. And these things happen. And when I made the review, it wasn't so much even about the NIDO virus. It was just the customer service. I wanted a little bit of compassion shown for me and for the animals, and that just wasn't received. So it was definitely a hard situation all around that did have a good resolution, and we're here today having a good discussion about things. But yeah, it's very hard. And I always tell people I can only give you the proof, and like, if you want to go and dig into dates and whatever you want, I mean, feel free. But as of right now, I have a NIDO virus negative collection. Everything in my collection has been tested negative. And the proof for me was in the pudding. I lived it. I watched the veterinarian stick that needle into both of those snakes' hearts and euthanize them. Very hard to watch. Very hard to watch. And
I mean, with all due respect, I can hear it in your voice. Like I know.
Yeah, I'm bothered right now.
You're okay. Listen, you're okay. I just don't want you to beat yourself up over it, because it really wasn't your fault. And this is what kind of breaks my own heart, because, man, this could have been settled a long time ago. Like, I could have had you speaking out about this a long time ago. And this is where I'm sorry again for not making this happen a long time ago. But you did arise from this. And what I mean by that is you do have so much support. You have so many people that understand your situation. But I mean, how was it when you felt like everyone was against you? And what I mean by that is, like, knowing that you had the information and you felt like there was basically a mob mentality going over you. How did you, like, what did you do? Like, what was going on through your head? How did you kind of arise through it? Did you just be patient? I'm just curious on how you made it out of that. Just
for sure. So I think in the industry, it's hard because we have a lot of people who we elevate to an extreme, and we have a lot of people that we sit here and we go, they're such an amazing person. They can't do any wrong. And it's not the right mentality to have. Like, no one is immune to having things happen to them with their business.
Right.
And, you know, when you're dealing with a certain amount of clients or whatever, things are bound to happen. And I always say that breeder is not ground zero for NIDO virus. I want to make that so clear. This is an industry-wide problem that we're dealing with. And as of right now, so I work directly with Fish Head Diagnostics on the Canadian side of things. So Canadian NIDO virus testing at the University of Guelph was only established because this happened to me. And we had such an outcry of people wanting to test their own animals. So I'm seeing this on a daily basis where I'm assisting people with testing. And we have pet keepers. We have pet keepers at this point who are testing 2 animals, and they're just getting into the industry, and both of those animals are testing positive. Both of the animals are testing positive. And that's their first introduction coming into the industry, is now they have animals that are NIDO positive, and they're looking to me and saying, what should I do? What do you do when no one wants to talk about it and it's the elephant in the room, and, you know, everyone just goes after everyone else? Like this should just be something like parvo in dogs, or, you know, whatever else. This is something that's just a facet of the industry, and we have to talk about it, and we have to deal with it together in order to move forward positively. We have US ARC, we have CanHerp in Canada, and this industry fights very strongly to govern itself. If you're going to govern yourself, you need to do better, because we're failing right now, especially the ball python people.
And I'll tell you what, breeders out there that are listening to this, yeah, you guys, because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't like to say shit because it will kind of ruin their opportunity, or they feel like, dude, I better not fucking say shit because who knows, I might not, you know, look who I'm going up against, right?
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, like that shit right there is just so much risk that you're taking, you know. And I feel like when I ask questions, and I ask questions, okay, Caila, I really do like that. I feel like for the most part, people think I have my assumptions, but I kind of do research on things, and I'm trying to keep this as positive as possible right now. And I just want to say that I did ask around, like, how come this person hasn't ever been accused of NIDO before? Like, what? I've never heard this story. But then all of a sudden stories were popping up, and I'm like, what? So, like, why isn't nobody speaking up? Like, what? Why is it this poor girl who's keeping on the keeping side, making no money on this, having to be the one to step up, all because she's not a part of us, which you are a part of us, like that. But what sucks is because you were the one to speak up, it drew that line in the ground, like even thicker. Like it was like, and shout out to the homie Lord the Lion. I love Lord, man. I really do.
I think he's a really nice guy. Yeah. I never had a problem with him.
I love that whole crew over at Mutation Creation. Because I mean, that's the elephant in the room we're talking about right now. I mean, come on, we're not fucking stupid, but I respect all the employees there so much to where I was like, I'm going to listen to what you guys have to say. And mind you, it was just kind of the lack of knowledge all around the board, because here's the thing. Things did get settled between you and Mutation Creation somewhat, correct? Like I mean, you guys are good, obviously. There's no issue, but do you feel like there's some stuff that still needs to be resolved, or what do you feel like with that?
No. So, Billy ended up calling me when this whole thing was going down, because I actually started defending him online. There was a lot of people that started spreading false lies about Billy online.
That's kind of part of the mob mentality, isn't it? Isn't it?
And you know what? If I'm wrong on something, then I will take the blame on it. But I was not wrong on this. And, you know, I went through the due diligence of testing and retesting my collection to make sure that the accusations I was making were correct. But we had a lot of things flying the other way too. And there was a whole group of people that posted that they had videos of Billy's NIDO factory. And I ended up reaching out to them and I said, what is this about? I've never heard of this. And they basically told me to just, you know, not worry about it, that, you know, they were just doing it. And I said, no, because you're turning this into a 3-ring circus. And I said, these are my animals that passed away. And I said, I'm already under scrutiny from a lot of people for this. And I said, you're turning it into a joke. And I said, this isn't professional. And I defended him publicly on that post. And someone screenshotted that and sent it to him. And they said, Caila's defending you, so you might want to go reach out to her. And he did. He reached out to me. We talked for like 8 hours. I had to order Uber Eats. It was the longest. Billy talks for a while, okay? But it was a long one. And we hashed a lot of things out. And it turned out, you know, his whole negative perception on me was other people going like this.
Right.
Here. And that's always what it is with this community. I don't know why everyone thinks that this is like a grade school yard and we can all just go like this with each other.
It's because people are miserable, Caila. People, for the most part, who don't go to the shows, who aren't face to face, they have so much to say behind this. And that's the thing. A lot of the people who are most aggressive behind these rallies of these, you know, these mobs and stuff like that are just really, all they have is the voice in the chats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, right? But I feel like you're just coming from a place of just trying to fix it. You know what I mean? And why not create this kind of awareness if no one else is going to speak up? It sucked that trust me, it sucked that this had to happen to you. But I feel like you were the right person that this had to happen to, because
I've had a lot of people say that, and I'm like, I don't really want to be this person all the time.
But I mean, there's things that I've been a part of that I have to own and say, man, I didn't want to be a part of this, but I am for a reason, and we have to just, it is what it is. Everything could get flipped into a positive, and I feel like with everything you've been through, there have been a lot of positives coming from it, and you know,
definitely. So so we ended up talking. And I mentioned the show that you had did. And I said, you know, you had Lord Lion on that show. Right. And this is me talking with Billy. And I said, you have me with these tests. And I said, yes, you cannot be here. And you don't know what I'm doing here. So that's fine. But I said, the bottom line is we have 2 animals out of the entire collection that tested positive. And I said, the one snake was here before the other snake for a period of time. And I said, you know, he only had problems once I started feeding the rats. And I said, like, you know, they've both got the same strain of NIDO. So here we are. And I said, it's just not scientific to go for Lord Lion to sit here and say, well, there are 6 snakes in the facility, but we 100% don't have NIDO, and we're giving them Da Vinci Boa to boost their immune system. And I'm sitting here like, there's nothing scientific about this. We have tests, and then we have, well, my reputation is so good that we can't possibly have NIDO virus. That's not a thing. You're not immune to it. And this is, again, I had a positive resolution with Billy. Sorry, my computer's just being a pain in the ass. So I had a positive resolution with Billy. He ended up going on his Patreon, which I wish that more people knew, but hopefully after watching this, they will. And he did a 2-hour apology video, and there were quite a few people in that video. And he talked about all of this stuff, and he apologized, and he admitted to calling me a bitch, a cunt, everything under the sun. And I forgive him. It's okay. As long as we can just move forward from things and do things in a better way, which is what he and I are trying to do, then it's okay. It's okay that I had to take the hits from that, as long as there's a good resolution at the end, which I think right now there is.
So he never admitted that he had NIDO though? Like, even with all this, did he ever say, I did have NIDO, or that was never admitted? It was never admitted. I mean, he has 6 snakes in the facility. We know that from the video. I mean, we talked about, even when I went to the facility, there was an animal with an RI. And I said it is a testament to that Billy, I don't think, would sell a sick animal on purpose, because I said he actually told me that I could not buy that snake because it had an RI.
So I know there are sick animals there. And to my knowledge, no testing has been done to this date. But that's his prerogative. I can't force anything. You have to do what you want to do with your facility. And, so I think that's where we're at with it.
Yeah. Listen, here's the thing, man. Like when you're selling as many snakes as anyone is, as far as the level that he's at, and Kabelka and all these other big snake guys, like I feel like they all fear that they could have NIDO in their collection. I feel like they all have some sort of like, I mean, if you've been around, like, come on, don't be an idiot. Like, that this could possibly be in your collection.
I'm going to be honest with you. So right now we have, and all of the big guys do it intermittent testing. So testing your collection.
Like who do you know? Like let's say some names. Who have you spoken to?
Justin Kabilka. He talked about this on Canova University, and he said we intermittently test snakes, especially new snakes that they're bringing in from other people. So this wasn't something that was like a new thing to Canova. They do. Now Bob Vu was just on Brian Pinhat guy. He was just on his podcast. And one of the questions that popped up at the end was actually, Bob, do you nidovirus test your animals? And he was very candid about it. And he said, yes, I do. I do nido test them. And he said, I intermittently test. And I think it's very important. And actually, I reached out to Bob Vu after that episode, and we had an amazing discussion about nido and what he does to test. And for breeders that think that that people aren't doing this, you guys are way out in left field. Like Will from Royal Canadian Reptiles is a good friend of mine.
Will does the same thing. He
does this, and he's a stellar example because he literally has a secondary facility that he built to house his juveniles so that there is no cross contamination between his adults and the juveniles. What a guy! Like that's reputation to me.
I mean, and I feel like so many people should consider people who do these steps before you spend money with them. Like, hello, like if you have somebody who's doing all these steps, regardless how big they are, then that's somebody who's like on top of their shit, because you never know. And just think about if you're sending out so many snakes that, yeah, I understand you may not know, but think about how many snakes could possibly be in people's collections right now with fucking NIDO, And I'm not saying, I'm just saying anybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we actually have a statistic from Fishhead Labs.
I gotta hear this. I want to hear this.
Yeah. So Pia actually gave me this statistic so that I could discuss it. And out of every collection that has been tested by Fishhead Labs, approximately 25% of the snakes have come back NIDO positive. Think about that.
Whoa.
Think about that. That's big numbers.
That's crazy.
And are
we talking just ball pythons or any species of python? What are we talking here?
So this would be like green trees, carpets. So like,
okay, well see the green trees, man. I'm telling you right now, like the ball pythons are just sturdy. Like the ball pythons could put up with a lot, and I feel like that's why people, and I feel like at a certain age is when they start to crash with ball pythons, right? But
no, that's a common misconception. There's so many different strains of nidovirus, and it's really just how it affects each animal differently. So again, like we can see animals that are nido positive and you just Baytril the heck out of them. Right. And they'll, as I talked about earlier, look like they're getting better, but in reality, they still have that viral infection. You're just clearing the bacterial infection that's secondary to the virus. But the thing is we have so many asymptomatic animals, and this is kind of what Darth was. And we don't really talk about the asymptomatics, but Pia, she had an asymptomatic. Now, I don't know if it was a green tree or an emerald tree, but I kind of get the two a little bit mixed up. But it's
a green tree. Emeralds, from what I know, emeralds haven't gotten NIDO, or there hasn't been a NIDO positive emerald from what I've heard.
Yeah. So Pia had this green tree in her collection, and it had the highest viral load of any animal, like any snake ever in existence, of NIDO virus, and it was asymptomatic forever. Could just pass it around to everybody. It was a plague walker. It literally could just walk the plague right through the collection. And we see ball pythons like that too, that they'll just hold on forever. Like their immune system just keeps on, and they'll walk it right through. So you'll put a male to multiple females. Well, you've just infected the females, right? Yeah. So it's scary. And this is why I promote testing so hard now. Because really it's not to place blame on anyone. And I don't want people, taking that away from this episode. That's the last thing that I want. The thing that I want people to take away from this episode is, at the time, I had around 6 or 7 ball pythons, and I had 2 that tested positive. Now, this is a huge problem that's not just affecting me, that's not just affecting large breeders. It's affecting you guys too. And if we're not doing things like doing testing during quarantine, and we're not being active in the mentality of stopping this virus from going further, with the international import and export of these animals, I just don't want to see this get to a point where it's unmanageable.
And the more you continue to just shy away from the fact that you possibly have a sick animal, is the harder that this is going to get. And I just don't want people to be you don't have to be ashamed of it. First and foremost, if you do happen to get a sick animal in a collection, that doesn't mean your whole collection is going to fucking die. It's an eye opener, first and foremost. Okay. But there are protocols you should take. I know how expensive this testing shit could get. I do. And guess what, man, I've talked about this on a show before, but 2 years ago, okay, the very last import that I got from the importer I was dealing with, Chondro, the only one I didn't test, to mind you, and I only didn't test it. Why didn't I test it? I forgot what the reason was. It was a stupid reason, but anyways, I didn't test it. I paired her up. Sure enough, like she's building, and I'm like, dude, I think she's gonna ovulate. Like, she looks really good. I come back the next morning, she's rolled out dead, and I'm like, what? And so right away, I call my boy Sock, like, NIDO test right now. I'm like, okay, I NIDO test, boom. I put the male in quarantine just in case. And I'm like, holy shit, sure enough, comes back. The worst news ever. NIDO test. It got positive. So I'm like, and dude, luckily I've had half of what's in here now during that time, but it wasn't a lot. So I had about 9 chondros in here. Okay. And dude, my heart, it sank. I thought I was ruined. I thought it was over. Like I got scared. Like I got like cold sweats. I'm like, dude, like, people are going to find out I'm fucked. And Sock, all he told me is like, dude, don't worry about it. You just got to test everything and test it however you can. He's like, do 3 at a time. He helped me. He walked me through the whole process. And as scary as it was, I wanted to fucking know. I was like, I need to know what's sick in here. I just can't. Like, there's no way. Like, even though this is a closed off room for the most part, this snake was still around everything. That male was paired up to like 3 different females, and he was locking the shit out of her. So sure enough. So what's crazy, Caila, so I tested everything 3 times within that, I think, the 9-month period or something like that. And everything, including the male, came back clean.
Yeah.
And I was like,
thank God, right?
I was like, what the fuck? And mind you, every damn night, every morning, I was waking up looking to see if something was dead. I was looking for RI. I was freaked out. That year was a fucking, oh man, it sucked. But all you can do is do something about it. And if it wasn't for my boy Socrates, I probably would have just lived in fear. I probably would have just been like, what am I going to do? But dude, you got to know these things. It's what makes you. It's what's going to continue this for the long run. Instead of just, it's a shortcut. I feel like you're taking a shortcut by not addressing the issue. And that shortcut will be the fucking snake that bites you in the ass. And I'm not talking about no ball python bite. I'm talking a gaboon. I'm talking like your butt cheek's going to turn black, Caila.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Like I completely agree with you. And I think, we have a lot of people talking about costs and stuff like that. But these costs have to be worked into your business model if you're a breeder. And as a pet keeper, they should just be a part of, when you buy a dog, you're going to get it all of its shots. You don't have to do that with a snake. get it its NIDO test to make sure that it's healthy. And this should be something that is worked into your business and worked into, as a pet keeper, it should be into the cost of buying the animal. Now, for all of the breeders here, like, the best way to have a solid foundation in your business is to have healthy animals. They are the foundation, and you build upon them with your collection. Now, when your animals aren't healthy, your foundation crumbles and you don't have much of a business. So this is something that we need to start looking at. And I know that it is daunting cost-wise for breeders to test entire collections. A lot of people are talking about that. And the best thing that you can do, like what Bob Vu does, so yeah, he takes like one snake per rack or a couple snakes per rack. Intermittent testing is what I call it. And you do some intermittent testing, but you also maintain really strong biosecurity. So just use a little bit of hand sanitizer after each snake.
Want to know something crazy, Caila? I was talking to my boy Socrates, right, with his daughter and the ball and the, so the reason why I love the guy so much is because, like, he's one of the best chondro emerald tree boa breeders in the game. Like, the guy has so much, he's so dialed in. Oh my God, Caila, you two talking about NIDO testing, you guys would talk about an 8-hour podcast. You and Socrates would really take off with this. But I was at his house, and I know he's not going to be mad at me talking about this, because this is how well he knows his collection, right? I was at his house in August, and what was the snake? This guy had, it was like a $15,000 chondro, like a really, I think it was Shutterfly. Oh, his snake Shutterfly. Beautiful designer snake. Well, I'm shooting a vlog at his house. We go to his kitchen, we eat some food, we go back. Shutterfly is rolled out dead. Whoa. We're like, what the? He's like, dude, I don't know what the fuck just happened. And I want to cry. Like, I'm like, dude, like, what the? And I'm like, dude, and I want to scream out, are you going to NIDO test it? But I'm just being quiet. And I'm just like, bro, like, what's going on? And sure enough, he's like, it is what it is. Like, he's the guy who he's not going to show emotion because he understands this is a circle of life. But in my head, I'm like, I wait for the right moment. And I'm like, dude, are you going to NIDO test everything now? Because I'm thinking that's what I would have to do, right?
Yeah.
He's like that. I have 3 clean NIDO tests from this snake 6 months ago. So like he's not stressing shit. He already has tests on that snake. That NIDO did not kill that snake.
Yeah, and not every RI is going to be NIDO, and like not every NIDO virus is going to go in RI. Like, it's, but it's a really good first step, right? And you have to have that stuff on your snake. So when you're bringing in a snake, especially a breeder animal that's had exposure in the collection to multiple other snakes, give it a test or two during your quarantine. This is stuff that has to be built into your program, because this is how you protect all of your other animals from getting ill. And that's what I'm saying about having the good biosecurity for breeders that can't afford to test the entire collection. That's understandable. Mitigate exposure. So I'm so sick of seeing on Instagram posts where we have people putting the adults with the juveniles. Nidovirus does not transmit vertically. So, which means that it doesn't pass from the parent to the babies unless you're doing maternal incubation.
Right.
So as soon as you put that juvenile with the parent, you've just cross-contaminated it. Like, what are you thinking? It's so bad. It's just like, think ahead with your biosecurity. And you can mitigate a lot of this stuff with just being intelligent.
I'll be honest with you too, Caila. I've had this conversation about, because I'm tapped into a lot of big breeders in this, and ones who've been doing this for a while. And you don't think I want to just talk to them about, like, NIDO awareness. And the thing is, a lot of them are like, they've been doing this for so long where their collections are sealed. Like, they don't buy anything, they don't bring anything in. And for the most part, their baby room is in a different room. So another big biosecurity measure that you can take, and mind you, you should consider this if you want to be a ball python breeder. You should consider having a hatching room, and you should consider having adults. And because for the most part, you don't sell too many adults. You're selling all the hatchlings, right? But
I want to add in, that is actually something that Billy at Mutation Creation has implemented.
Right.
He implemented a juvenile room. So I'm like, that's awesome. Like, you're taking steps at least to protect the animals. and at least start in the right direction on that. But yeah, like it's not hard, and especially if you're a newer breeder coming in and you don't have that many animals, just start off right now. Like start things off right.
And nobody, I'm sorry, Caila, I'm going to cut you off. And nobody should give you pushback. If you're a new breeder out there, if you're trying to come up on some stuff and somebody's trying to offer you some adults and you have concern, then ask for a NIDO test. They shouldn't, like, that should be something that, like, and you breeders out there shouldn't be mad at somebody if they ask for a NIDO test either, because why they're just being careful. You should have respect for somebody who wants something like that, especially if you're spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Hell, even if you're spending $1,000, like why wouldn't you want I would say it's not a guaranteed health, but it is a peace of mind that you are getting a snake that's NIDO clean. You know what I mean?
So I will say that for breeders, if you want to test your collections for your own safety and for your own knowledge of what you have in there, then that's great. But I do feel like that test from when you're buying an animal falls upon the seller. Falls upon the buyer. My apologies. It falls upon the buyer to actually, when they receive the animal, pay for the nidovirus test and have that discussion with the breeder. What's your policy if it tests positive, blah, blah, blah. Because it's hard if the snake is waiting to get shipped out or something. We still might have cross-contamination at the breeders. So if the breeder does a NIDO test and it comes back negative, and then the individual who bought the snake does a NIDO test and it comes back positive, well, then we have very conflicting things going on. So I always say it should fall upon the buyer to do these tests. And to answer the person in the comments, I just talked about this a minute ago, but nidovirus does not transmit vertically. No. So if you are not maternally incubating, so you're putting the eggs in an incubator like most people do, the juveniles will not have nidovirus. Now, if you're maternally incubating and the female is sitting on the eggs, and that female's not tested, then you have a chance, of course, for the babies to contract the nidovirus if the parents are positive, the mom.
We're gonna keep this NIDO talk going. I'm getting happy. So, guys, do me a favor. Listen, especially if you're part of the Jube crew, I want you guys to get the likes up for Caila right now, because this is quite a bit of an awesome episode. We have over 70 likes, over 100 people in the building. So, thank you for being here. But let's give her 100 likes. I think she's worth that. So
come on, guys! Let's go here. Let's get it up.
Let's talk about some of the raw truth in the chondro community, right? I had somebody just comment something that's brutal to hear and read, but I'm used to it, and I've seen it before. There's people out there who take no chances, Caila, and when I say no chances, somebody just commented, if it sneezes, it freezes. So
if it wheezes, it freezes
it's brutal, right? But people just rather not deal with it. And that's not the first time I've heard something like that, where if there's a symptom in a snake, just put it down. Like, there's nothing you can do but to put it down. Like, don't waste any time, right? And that's like, man, mind you, talking about Socrates again, this guy will, if the snake isn't NIDO positive and it's not eating, he'll assist feed this thing for a whole year, right? But then there's also people out there who are also like, if it has a symptom, put it down. They also like, if it doesn't want to eat, it doesn't want to eat. I'm not going to assist feed. I'm not going to force feed, because that also carries, I feel like a weak eating animal, I feel like stays within the genetics, or even something that is not doing well or sick. But how do you feel about that with the, if it sneezes, you freeze it, or I mean, what do you have to say to something like that?
I agree with you on the weak genetics with snakes not eating. So I have a snake that's a failure to thrive. He was going to be euthanized by the breeder. But I told her that I would take him because I love him. He's a 2020 and he's pretty much like 500 grams. He's really small and he looks not great. But he eats now for me. He's on ASFs and he does what I need him to do. Now, would I ever say, we talked about at the beginning, how I think that only the best examples of snakes should be bred and have their genetics passed on. He's a beautiful animal, but as for passing on his genes, absolutely not. Like he's just not, he's a pet. And that's all he'll ever be. Now, as for the freezes, it wheezes, I have to look at this from an educated, more veterinary standpoint. So for me, I always tell people to do due diligence.
I'm gonna use. I can hear you. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick, but keep talking. I can hear you.
I always tell people to do due diligence. So, I have people reach out to me and they'll say, my snake is wheezing and it has an RI. And I say, well, it is important to go to the vet and get it checked out. But the best first step that you can take is actually getting it that viral test, because that's going to help the vet determine as well if this is bacterial or if it's something viral. And if it's something viral and unfortunately it can't be treated, then in my opinion, humane euthanasia is, that's what I did with my animals. I don't think that nidovirus positive animals should be bred, because without necropsy, which is post-mortem, we actually don't know how much lung deterioration those animals have. And I just feel like it gets really messy. And yeah, I know it's kind of the rhyme, but I agree with Patricia. I don't think that freezing is the right way to go. I always recommend humane euthanasia with your veterinarian who knows how to do it correctly.
Yeah, freezing's rough. I mean,
yeah, a lot of people in the goldfish industry say to freeze your fish as well. And I'm like, it's horribly painful for the
I thought they just flush it down the toilet.
No, well, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of them get so big, you couldn't flush them down the toilet. Really?
That big?
Yeah, go look up like an adult pearl scale. It's like a baseball, man.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they're like chubby McMuffins, but yeah, like they're chubby.
You'd be hungry.
Yeah, they're delightfully chubby. They're like the ball pythons of the fish world. But yeah, with fish as well, like what happens is their body starts to crystallize and freeze. Like that's agonizing. You can't say that that's a good way to do it. So I would never recommend that. I think that's gross. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but kind of going back to what we were talking about as far as I don't know, let's kind of put yourself in the breeder world for a little bit. Okay, let's say you have hatchlings, ball python hatchlings. What would you do as far as like if you had a deformity, right, or something with like a missing eye or something, right? Like, what would you want to still sell that to as pet quality, or what would you like to do in that case?
It depends. So, it depends on the severity of the deformity. So, one eye missing or something, I don't even know if I would sell that. It would probably just go to a friend or someone that I knew was going to be a good home for it, that wasn't going to breed it. So with deformities, everyone has a different opinion on this, and opinions are like assholes. We all have one. But like, I don't look at something like, certain morphs as being super impaired, if you know what I mean by that. So we'll have a lot of people talk about like spiders. Like I have a lot of people hate on my spiders. And even though these are pet only animals,
is Jube a spider? Am I mistaken?
No, Jube's a lesser enchi.
Shout out to Jube, by the way. Shout out to Jube. Jube is the star of everything that you have going on. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I got to give credit to where's credit owned. But
so for a snake, like let's put it this way. For a snake that has like neurological issues or something like that, I would say that really depends on severity. Like most spiders or, hidden gene womas or champagnes or whatever you want to do, they're going to be fine. But you'll have those anomaly animals that have a really severe case. And at that point, it's on the keeper to determine what's the best thing to do. Now we have a lot of snakes that are born with kinking and really bad deformities like that. And I would say, like, if it's not going to have a quality of life, like it can't pass through food through it, it can't move properly, then it needs to be euthanized. Like it is what it is.
Yeah. And like you said, as the keeper, breeder, producer, you have to make that right call too. Like it's up to you. But at the end of the day, like Luke had a good point. Like some of these animals, even though you want to keep them alive, could be fucking like miserable. You know what I mean? And they're not happy. But that's that's what makes you the keeper you are. You have to pay attention to stuff like this. And, you know, ball pythons, it's really hard. I mean, yeah, one way you can tell if a ball python is not doing well is the way it sheds, the way it eats, the way it looks, right? But then you have some species of snakes that will literally let you know that they are not doing well, like, you know, super dwarf or tick or a tick. If a tick's really not doing well, or if it's not, it will shove its face. It will like mess itself up because it panics, you know, and it just, this is why I encourage people to never just dabble into one species, because, you know, if you really want to get the understanding of a reptile, then you'll understand that we'll always try to understand reptiles. There's no perfect understanding of reptiles out there. This is what makes it so interesting. This is what makes it for what it is, because it's up to us to figure these things out, and then we pass the knowledge down. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's really all Jube and Friends is at the end of the day.
Right. I respect it.
It's a place where I can pass what I've learned over the years on to other keepers. And there's a lot of things that other keepers can teach me too. I never stop learning. I think that when you put yourself in a chokehold and you say, this is the way I'm going to do it, this is the only way, it's just like you're just stifling yourself. There's nothing good that comes out of that. And I do feel like it's important for breeders to see the other side of things as well, because you're selling to pet keepers. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't do this without you. Like, hello.
You should have an understanding. I've seen a lot of breeders, and they'll just tell the pet keeper, oh, well, get it a rack. Well, the pet keeper's not going to do that. So it's up to you to understand what size of PVC you should be recommending. What's the best radiant heat panel? How much of a substrate layer and what type of substrate should you be using? There's so many things that breeders can learn from people like me. And there's so many things that I can learn from breeders, especially if I were to go to that side of things. Like, I don't know what to do if a snake becomes egg bound, but I'm very sure that someone in the comments could teach me.
Yeah, that's another scary thing. And man, like, you know, we're talking of one little portion of many things that could happen to these snakes, you know, like, oh man, we just need to be ready for it. And I feel like just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And this is for the people who are doing this for the long run. This is because, you know, like for somebody who's not even in the breeding game, you've already dealt with NIDO, and that should be a freaking eye opener for everybody out there, you know, because like I said, is it kind of like, what are the chances of you getting one of these NIDO snakes? Well, I guess chances are high, because you don't
know. You don't know unless you test. And I think a good way to kind of end it off for me would be to say nothing was ever an attack, and I never wanted anything to come off that way. I think that we need to handle things with professionalism in this industry, especially if we're running a business. So I was unhappy with the professionalism of the situation. We shouldn't be calling our clients names and stuff like that. And all of that was apologized for. But my whole thing was just, I had no idea that NIDO virus existed. And I'm sure that if me being in the industry and being so involved with ball pythons, if I didn't know it existed, how many other people don't know? And I don't want other people having to go through this, because it's heartbreaking.
It is. And it's just a matter of time if you're not careful, you know? But listen, at the end of the day too, this is just like, it's not a bad thing to be on top of this. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, here's the thing. I always kind of give, not shit to people, but like, you know, I don't have an ultrasound yet, but how cool would it be if I did know how to use an ultrasound? Like, that would be neat. Like, I mean, it's like regardless, like, and here's the thing. I feel like, would I use it a lot? Maybe, but still, like, just to have that on your resume, like, it doesn't hurt. And, you know, reading books, you know, doing podcast, like, just keep learning. Like, you're not above anything. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, people think, well, I have my system and you know, but here, if you're not careful, something's going to happen. And
like, even right now, this episode is a learning episode. It's an educational episode. And look at how many people are talking in the comments and actually gaining some knowledge from this.
So positive. I love it.
And it's great. Oh, well, you know what? That's what this should be about. It's a community, and we should be elevating each other, and we should be trying to just do things better.
having fun, right, Caila? Like there's so much stuff that could happen in our lives where life might not be fun. But if we're talking about animals, we should have fun because, dude, hello, animals is our therapy. I don't know about you guys, but I love animals because it helps me cope with day-to-day life. It makes me not think of stress that I would normally think about. Like think about people, and this isn't against people who are animal people, but animal people, non-animal people don't have anything to rely on, I feel like, other than humans. And that's not a bad thing, but for me, I'm animals over humans, like all day, every day.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah, I'm very much. I always say that I'm here for the animals. Like helping the people is just a bonus because by helping the people, you help the animals. But I'm not really a super big. I feel like I've had to be really chatty over the last 3 months and really engage with people, but I'm not really. I kind of just like showing off the snakes.
I feel like your voice, like you should be a newscaster. Like you have such a weather. I don't want to say what. I don't want to call you a weather girl because that's just not right. What is it called? A forecaster? But what? There's a name for it. I
always think that my voice is so gross. So I don't know.
Anchor woman. That's what you need. I'm just saying, you just have I don't know. I feel like you have a narrator voice. Like your voice can narrate things. I feel like, I don't know, call me crazy.
Tonight on MJ Trap Talk.
Yeah, see, that was good. I might have to hire you for that. That's awesome. I like that.
Seeking resolution and NIDO virus. So
I have a wrap-up topic before we get into some hot seat questions, okay?
Yeah.
Now, let me make sure. Do we have... Oh, hold on. No, I don't. We need to slow down a little bit because I
feel like you're forgetting about the enclosure statement.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry.
You've got sponsors waiting here.
Time out. So we did kind of talk about the relationship with you and Freedom Breeder and how that led. Now, let's talk about the collaboration with the #1 PVC enclosure company in the world, and that's Focus Cube Habitats. What is going on with you and Steven and Ashley? What's the collaboration behind everything? I want to know about you and Focus Cube Habitat.
So Focus Cube Habitats is awesome. Ashley and Steven, I love them. They work very, very hard to create an excellent quality enclosure. And you know what? You can go buy a PVC, but I guarantee you it is not going to be the quality that Focus Cubed.
Nope.
It's not going to be. Like, it's not even going to be close. And I just had a pet keeper the other day. I was talking to Ashley about this before the episode. And I said, I just had a ball python keeper and they wanted to save $100. And they went and bought a PVC with someone else. And it's already bowing in the middle. So I'm like, just spend the money, get the better thing.
And the money. Listen.
Spend the money. These animals live for 30 plus years if you take good care of them. So you want to make sure that you're getting an enclosure that's going to last you for the duration of its life. And Focus Cube puts so much detail and quality into their build. And the thing that I also like, is for people like me who didn't really know that much about UV or anything like that, they're working with some of the top companies for that stuff. So for UV, they're stocking all Arcadia light fixtures. So, Ashley was talking to me about shade dwellers and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what you're even saying, but I said, put it in there. If that's what you want, put her in. Like, that sounds good.
These guys, I want to say they're not... I think Steven's like a genius. I think Steven's like, he's so goddamn smart, and the way he computes things, right? And then I feel like Ashley's just like the person with the tools, and she just fucking and puts it all together. But they are so ahead of the game, man. And what I mean by this is they're not just focused on breeders. They're trying to focus on people who don't want to breed. They just want to enjoy the animal. And Ashley, you want to know? Oh my God. Like what really connected the dots on okay, you need to hit up Caila and because this is not right. And what I mean by this is I was ready to kind of I don't want to say talk shit, but I was ready to kind of.
Oh no, MJ, I'm going to call you. You did. You said, fuck you. 4 foot by 2 foot.
I did. Okay,
you did. Fuck you. Heard it here on MJ, the 4 foot by 2 foot. So I'm calling you out right now.
Guys, everyone have a good night. That's all we have for this. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't say it on the Ashley episode, but that's when I was hating. Yeah, I was like, fuck the 4x9. Because here's the thing, it got in my head that, oh my God, you put a ball python in a 4x2, it's going to get NIDO. That that is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay. But I kind of use that as the joke. And that's why, you know what I mean? So I got to say I was wrong on that. I stand corrected because the way I sound very hypocritical here is I had Ashley on the show and Ashley's like, hey, MJ, that ball python, and mind you, this thing is like 6 months years old. So that ball python's doing great. And I'm documenting every day and how it's acting in its 4x2. And I'm like, dude, that's fucking neat. So you are actually documenting. And I was like, okay, so how is this cool that Ashley does it? But then yet you're giving fucking Caila shit for doing it. So very like, I was like, because I really did think that was cool. I was like, Ashley's taking the time to see if this works. And if it does well, it's shedding, it's eating, it's drinking, it's doing everything it needs to do. So I think that's neat. I thought like this needs to be discussed more because not everyone's meant to breed, Caila. People just want to enjoy the animal and that's okay. Let them enjoy the animal.
And that's actually the main barrier that's kind of stopping me from breeding is I don't really want this to turn into another business that I'm forced to do. I'm kind of just enjoying it right now, just it being casual and being something that you can do in your spare time. But for the Focus Cube stuff, you're right. Ashley and Steven are marketing a ton of their stuff towards pet keepers. And the 4 foot by 2 foot is really what pet keepers are gravitating towards. And I think it's great if we have a good PVC option for that because Ashley and Steven are going to make sure it's done right. They're going to make sure it's set up with the correct heat panel, radiant heat panel. They're going to make sure you're all set up so that you're set up for success. Instead of going to a pet store, getting your glass tank, the pet store special, as I call it, the red light, the Aspen, your heat rock, and you're just setting up the animal for failure. So you definitely want to have good people and good companies like this in your corner because they're developing the next generation of product for this industry.
And the product is such high quality to the point where, man, one of my biggest regrets last year was like I originally went to my sponsor, Steven and Ashley, and I said, guys, Mac Dre and Alice, my lace monitors, they're getting big. I need this. And I needed an 8 foot tall, 6 foot across, 4 feet deep enclosure. And they're like, MJ, that's going to be expensive, buddy, but we could do it for you. And I'm like, I want to do it. But then, guys, pay attention. I got approached by somebody who I know. And they're like, hey, we're doing something. I think we're going to try to do enclosures. Can we do a prototype for you? We want to build something for you for your lace monitors. And I was like, okay, you know, mind you, they wanted to use me as the guinea pig and they wanted like, and you know, I went cheap, I guess. I was like, I like what they told me price wise. And I was like, holy shit, that's quite a bit of savings. And I was like, why not? And I respectfully went to Steven and Ashley. I said, guys, I have this other opportunity. Somebody wants to build me an enclosure. I want to see how it goes. And they were cool with it. They were fine. And goddamn, the worst decision I ever made. Dude, I'm talking about the cheapest PVC I've ever seen in my entire life. I could literally, so I had, like, they came in sheets, right? So I had one sheet and I noticed one corner was chipped. And I'm like, how did this thing get chipped? It was fully like wrapped. I went like, pretend this is the sheet, right? Yeah. I went like this and I could snap it. I broke it. I broke it just by going like this. It just, and I was like, I wanted to see how sturdy it was. And Caila, I'm not joking. I barely put pressure and it snapped. And I was like, you've got to be shitting me. And so, dude, this was a disaster, all because I wanted to save just some money and not go through the real deal. Mind you, I didn't know. I thought these people, first and foremost, I thought PVC was all the same. It's not. There's high quality PVC and there's bullshit China PVC.
Yes, like with everything.
Dude, oh my God, and you know, I don't know. I still got to talk to him about the because I don't want them in this enclosure. Like I don't want it, but it is what it is. It is up. It's built. It's just not Focus Cube. And guys, this was a lesson MJ had to learn. One of many of last year, but I'm just saying this was a lesson MJ had to learn. Don't ever go cheap when it comes to enclosures, and just, you know, focus on the reviews. We're right here telling you right now, pet keeper, breeder, go Focus Cube habitats all day. I'm telling you.
Or Freedom Breeder.
Oh, right. Or
Freedom RHACS system, okay.
RHACS system, right. RHACS systems, Freedom Breeders, enclosures, I would say focus cube all day, every day.
So for focus cubed, I know that we kind of touched on it a little bit, but the only thing that I wanted to say is, so Jube has his custom enclosure made by Focus Cubed, and it's not quite. I believe it's around 4 foot by 2 foot, but it's only like 18 inches wide because I wanted to use it on my pre-existing stand. But the level of detail that went into that thing, it was their first time ever actually machining out a logo on the back. So I have the entire Jube and Friends logo machined out inside of the enclosure. And Steven literally told me that he broke like 8 drill bits doing it, and he's like, you almost euthanized my machine. So a lot went into creating that. We had like 6 months of back and forth on the design of just the Jube enclosure. And with Freedom Breeder, we had months of back and forth too on doing those big like boa tubs for the ball pythons, because there's things that you had to think about, the size of the heat panels, because you're putting hides in there. It was going to be front heavy, so we had to talk about what we were going to do to the back to anchor it. There's so much that went into these enclosures, and I couldn't have picked better companies to do them with. I've had the Freedom Breeder set up for over 2.5 years now, and I have also been documenting the snakes eating, shedding, all of that stuff. I have a full notebook of documentation to see how well they were doing, and it's been phenomenal. It's been a phenomenal experience, and I would highly recommend both of those companies. Not because I'm paid, I paid them, but just because they have a great product, and the customer service is out of this world as well.
And customer service could take you far in this world, can it, Caila?
Customer service is pretty much my number one thing. I feel like I maybe have heightened expectations because of my own customer service within my business. But if you have good customer service with me, you're going to gain a friend.
Okay, so little double, like it's kind of like a combination of a wrap-up topic here, because it kind of leads into each other. And what I want to talk about with you right now, Caila, because what a great positive episode this has been. It's just already 2 hours. Like, wow, I feel like we could do another 2, no problem.
Yeah, this is what everyone says. They're like, man, you just keep it going. And I'm like, I try.
But where did things go wrong, you feel like, with keepers and the breeders? And when I say keepers, people who don't want to breed, the people who are just in this for the pure enjoyment of the animal. Where do you think things kind of went wrong, and how can we, us as a whole, fix it? Like, what can we do to kind of take the first step of fixing and mending whatever gap there is between pet keepers and breeders?
Well, let me ask you, what's the number one thing that people talk about with ball pythons and larger enclosures? What's the number one complaint that people have with moving a ball python into a larger enclosure?
That they crash.
Kind of, but that they're not going to eat.
Right. Well, exactly. So, right.
That they're not going to eat.
Right.
So I feel like this stems from a lot of breeders. They have this negative connotation of pet keepers, because I feel like breeders, their first bad experiences, a lot of them come from pet keepers. And it's because pet keepers don't do their due diligence before they bring their animals home to actually make sure that they're setting them up properly and that they're going to thrive. So we have blame on both sides here. So we have breeders who, they're not educated enough on how to properly talk to the pet keeper on how to do it. So we have them selling the snake, and then they have a bad experience with the pet keeper because the pet keeper comes back to them and they say, well, it's not eating, it's not shedding correctly, it's not doing what it needs to do. And that could be avoided by both sides doing a little bit more research and education to gain the knowledge on how to be symbiotic with each other. So the pet keeper, I preach, and I will preach this till the day I die, there will always be another snake for you to bring home. Make sure you have your enclosure set up before you bring your animal home. Make sure that your temps and humidity are dialed in, and make sure that your heat source is on a thermostat. I see far too often, I get about 40 to 50 messages a week with people sending me enclosures, and they're all pet keepers that are having issues. And I see just barren enclosures, and we have like a HABA log and a water dish and a red light, and none of this is conducive to the animal's well-being. As we talked about earlier, this is an ambush predator. Ball pythons, if you're going to put them in an exposed area like a glass tank or a PVC, the animal has to feel secure. So we have to have multiple hides. We have to have foliage. We have to have all of these things. You can't just put a ball python in a larger space and go, here you go, buddy. Hope it's going to work out for you, because it's not. And that's what we see happening. And they bring home the wrong substrate, so their snakes don't shed correctly. They get heat mats, which unfortunately in both a PVC and a glass tank, a heat mat isn't going to be conducive, because you need a 4 to 6 inch thick layer of a moisture retaining substrate like cypress mulch, a cocoa husk, breeder's block, something like that retains humidity. You need a 4 to 6 inch thick layer, and you need to mix water into it. Because you have this large space that you're trying to gain humidity into. So with a heat mat, you're sticking that under the glass tank or the PVC. Well, that heat mat isn't going to penetrate through your substrate layer. Right. So your best way is to have overhead heating. When pet keepers buy the heat mats, because breeders tell them like, oh, my snakes have under tank heating. So that's different in a rack than it is in a PVC or glass tank. So when keepers go and they buy a heat mat, their snake ends up actually digging down through the substrate to get onto the hot spot. And it's much hotter on the glass than it is on the top of the substrate. So what we see so often is just burns all over the snake. Right. I get weekly photos of snakes that are just cooked. Yeah. And all of this stuff can just be avoided with proper education on both sides and an understanding of how different sides are going to do the keeping and do the things.
Now, I don't know, I should have asked you this earlier, but do you have a YouTube account? Do you put anything out on YouTube or anything like that?
No, I really need to. I really should. I don't.
I mean, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, who don't give the pet tubing world a good look. And what I mean by that is you have somebody who shows their husbandry and the snake just looks miserable, but there's like 60, 70,000 views. And it's like, oh my, and this is kind of what makes breeders cringy with some pet tubers, because they'll have a huge following from just random people, but they're not, but because they have that huge following, they think they're doing it right. And it's like, dude, no. So I don't know, for somebody like you who has credit in the non-YouTube world, I mean, I can only imagine what you will actually do in the YouTube world. I think it would be really, really beneficial.
I think it would be fun. It's something that I've considered. I did have the Instagram live, not Instagram live, Instagram IGTV. I had that, and I called it the Ball Python channel, but Instagram kind of dropped that, and it's irrelevant now. Right. So I did make videos that are outdated because they show my glass tanks from back in the day, but maybe that's not a bad thing because it kind of shows how to set them up. Right. But I definitely would like to do some updated ones with my current stuff that I have. Cool.
Now, this was going to be like the double whammy of this topic was if you, Caila, if you were really serious about the breeder side of things, like let's just say these ball pythons you keep were all about a breeding project, and with all the knowledge you have and the experience with NIDO, how would you go about buying a snake when it comes to like breeding side of things? Like, can you kind of put yourself in the breeding side mindset and how you would do your due diligence on who you would buy from and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So when you're buying from a breeder, it should always be a breeder. So are you talking like a breeder buying from another breeder to bring in a snake?
Like how would Caila buy her snakes if she was a breeder? That's what I want to know. Like,
okay, for sure. So first off is quality. That's going to be quality 101. I don't want your garbage example. So if you have a bunch of like trash, I don't want it. I'm sorry. Like there's a lot of new
I hear you
that come into the industry and they buy the cheapest thing off Craigslist or Kijiji. And I'm like, look, you're breeding trash in an oversaturated market.
Right.
So you're never going to have a good quality product because you're starting with trash. And trash is okay for like a pet keeper who doesn't care. But for a breeder who's looking to elevate the example of the morph, it's not. So quality is always my number one thing. I want to see a good pattern, good contrast on that snake. I want to make sure that it's healthy. But I will always talk with a breeder to see if they align with my views. So what I mean by that is my number one rule is I don't like breeders who just say a snake is a snake. When I go up to someone in an expo and I'm interested in an animal and I ask them, you know, how's the temperament on this animal, especially with an older animal, which is usually what I go for. If they look at me and they go, well, snake's a snake, I'm like, have a great day. You don't know what's in your collection because we all have those snakes that you don't want to stick your hand in there. I have one right now and he hates me so much. So like he is a little shit noggin and I hate him. But you know what? I don't hate him. I love him, but I hate how he treats my love.
It's a love hate. It's a love hate.
So, you know, you're going to have those animals, but if you know your collection, yeah, Mariah, this one's not a friend. Yeah, he's not. That's my orange dream calico. He's a dick.
Hey, shout out to Mariah, by the way. I've had her on the show, and she's definitely one of the powerful females out of Canada that I give mad respect to.
Yeah, so thank you, Jana. I love you. Thanks for tuning in for so long too.
Thank you for being here for your friend, Jana. That's awesome.
Yeah, Jana's great. Love her and Jessica. But yeah, so it's all about the breeder aligning with what my values are. So as of right now, I feel like I'll ask a breeder about the NIDO virus testing. So I'll say, how do you feel about me NIDO virus testing this animal? And what happens if it comes back positive? And what's the animal eating? If it's an older snake that's on live, that's a pain in the ass for me. So that deters me a little bit. If it's a juvenile on live, okay, it's not as set in its ways. We can transition, hopefully. But all of these questions, and this is what people should be asking breeders when they're going to buy a snake as well. And I've had breeders who I've asked them really simple stuff, and it's been a no-go. And they've just balked at it. And immediately I can tell that we're not going to have a good relationship. So at that point, nothing negative. But it's just time for me to walk away and find someone who I'll have a good relationship with.
I mean, the whole vote with your dollar, like how much more real can you get with that? Like, I mean, you literally support people with the money you spend with them, right? So it's like,
yes.
I don't know. Have standards. That's all.
Like if NIDO virus testing is something that's important to you, and then you have a breeder tell you, well, I don't feel comfortable with you NIDO virus testing my animal, that breeder's obviously not a good fit for you then. So walk away.
And regardless on how many of your friends like this breeder or whatever, you have to make the call. Like it's nothing personal. You know what I mean?
That's definitely. Like again, like it's not. There might be 20 people who have a great experience and that one person who's just like, you know, I didn't have a great experience, and that's okay. Like things happen. You're always going to have, you know, differences of opinion and stuff like that. But typically if I'm going to buy an animal, I'll ask all of these questions. If a breeder doesn't want to communicate with me, then it's not worth my time. Like a lot of these snakes I'm looking at dropping like upwards of $3,000 on or more. And I was actually looking for a male. It had quite a few genes in it, TSK xanthic.
Nice.
And I asked someone if they could do a video for me of the snake being picked up out of the tub specifically, because I said, I just want to see what it's like when you go to put your hand in with it. That's it. But they sent me a video of them, you know, bopping its face in on the table. And I said, well, that's not what I was looking for. Like I told you specifically. And this animal was going to cost me probably close to $2,600 after I had to import it and everything. And I was like, I asked for something very simple. And they were just like, I think that you should go shop local so you can see it in person. And I said, no problem. Come
on. How, I mean, okay. So let me ask you this, Caila, if they were to do that and the snake bit them, would you not buy the snake?
No, like I just want to see how it reacts, because a lot of my animals too, like, so we take them across the road. I have a natural conservation area across the road, and then there's also a school that's by there. So a lot of my animals I like to use to teach the kids about reptiles when they're coming out of school, and we've done education over at the schools and stuff like that as well. Right. So it's just nice to know, like, what potential does this animal possibly have for me? Is it just going to be a breeding animal, or is it going to be an animal that, you know, we could work it in to do other things as well? It just really shows me the temperament of the snake. It's not going to kill the sale one way or the other, but what does kill the sale is just being like,
sorry, not going to do it.
Not going to do it. And I'm like, no.
Like, that's like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that's kind of like, do you even want to do business with a guy like that? Like, I mean, you can't take the extra steps for a $2,600 snake. We're talking $2,600 for a fucking snake. Okay?
So the animal wasn't priced. It wasn't priced at that, but we have to understand, like, it was priced lower, but with the foreign exchange, with the Canadian dollar, with, you know, having to import the animal, that I use Reptile Express, so that's not cheap. You know, so all of these things I have to factor in, and I NIDO virus test it. So that's, you know, over $100 in Canada. So I have to factor all of these things in. And I'm like, look, you know, nothing against the breeder. The stuff looks phenomenal over there, but I just don't feel like it's a breeder that I'm going to jive with long term. So there's no point to me buying it.
Well, good on you. I mean, that's just, listen, if they don't want to do what you want, then they don't deserve you as a customer, and that's fine. That's, you know, that's how they do their customer service. And it looks like you didn't take it the wrong way. You just said, all right, simple. See you later.
No, I don't at all. Like, if you know, the video, they didn't want to send it, that's totally fine by me. Like, I'll just wait it out until there's another animal. It's fine. I want breeders who I can have a really long lasting relationship with.
I agree.
I think that it's important. Like, the two female Xanthics that I have, I got from Ball Brilliance, who got the parents from JD Constriction.
Right.
And I talk with Matt all the time. Matt's probably like one of my best friends.
Matt who?
Pardon me?
Do I know him? Matt who?
Matt from Ball Brilliance.
Oh, I don't know.
Matthew Marshall. Yeah, he's a relatively new breeder, but really, really great guy, and has phenomenal looking animals. Customer service too. Like, I would buy him dinner, like, from across the country. But you know, he's just a guy that I've developed a really good friendship with, because he enjoys my updates about the animals so much. And he always says, I'm so happy that they went to such a great home, and that, you know, you enjoy them. And that's really the relationship that I want. Just someone who I can enjoy talking with, and share their animals with them, and how they're growing up and stuff like that.
Well, I enjoy talking to you. This was an amazing episode. We have hot seat questions now, though, I got to say. But before we get into the hot seat questions, what do you have to say to everyone who was tapped in? We had over 115 people tapped in at one point. What do you have to say to everyone who was here for you?
Honestly, I want to thank you guys so much for coming out. Even those who have biases about things that have happened recently, you know, I did as well. But I think the best way to move forward is just to make amends, and do things right, and do things positively. And I also want to thank the people for taking the time to hear my side of everything as well. And just understand that I've never been on a crusade. Fucking computer. I've never been on a crusade in the industry to hurt people. That's never what I've been about. The end goal of everything has always just been, don't have the same terrible experience that I had, or like, here, hopefully I can teach you something. Like, it's just trying to pass on the knowledge, in a way that you'll take it seriously, because a lot of these topics are serious, especially the one with NIDO virus.
And take it for what it is, and don't be offended by it. Like, I feel like some people are just offended by stuff because they don't want to hear it. And it's like, I know we don't want to hear it, but it's what it is. Like, what do you, like, fuck, I hate hearing about goddamn cancer and shit like that from humans. And we deal with that every day as humans, and it's like, damn,
It shouldn't be the elephant in the room. And people, I've had tons of breeders call me too that have NIDO positive snakes, and they're concerned about how the public is going to perceive that. And I said, how I look at it, I'd rather have someone who knows what's going on in their collection and they can say, well, I've acted upon it and these are the steps that I've taken to clean up the collection, as opposed to people who just have no idea what's going on in there. And then all of the onus is on you, like as the buyer, like everything is on you. So you need to make sure that you know they're not testing, they're not doing anything. So when you bring that snake in, it's on you to make sure your collection is protected.
Well said. Well said. All right, Caila, hot seat questions. Are you ready to end this with style? You ready?
Honestly, I don't even know what this means. I was going to ask you. I was like, what's a hot seat question? But sure, like whatever it is.
Right, guys, I think we're just shy of 100 likes. So thank you for all the likes. Caila, she appreciates it. I know that much. But hit the likes if you haven't yet, because here we go. Hot seat questions to end episode 290.
Okay.
Coming in hot. You ready?
Sure.
Frozen thought or live?
Frozen thought.
A cut or no cut? Would you ever cut it? Like, let's say you had a clutch. Would you ever cut an egg, or would you never cut an egg?
Cut an egg.
On what day?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. I'm so sorry. Teach me, breeders. I don't know.
Favorite ball python morph?
Favorite ball python morph? Xanthic TSK line.
Yay imports or boo imports?
Yay imports, depending on the species.
What's one reptile you would import to your collection anywhere around the world? And let's just say size didn't matter, whatever. What would it be?
Oh man, I'm not going to even say it right. Bolin's python.
You got it, Bolins. You got it. You got it.
Okay. I like those. They're very pretty. Yeah. I think these are nice.
That's the unicorn snake right there. It's one of my favorite snakes, hands down.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? What's one reptile you could think of that nobody should ever import? Like, leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Like a crocodile. Like I see people keeping crocodiles as pets, and I'm like, what? Or alligators? Like, I don't know what you guys are doing.
I think you should leave those alone for sure.
Yeah, leave them out there. They're fine.
To spray or mist a ball python, or to never spray and mist a ball python?
Mix water into the substrate. It does more to retain humidity for longer.
Yay sports or boo sports, Caila?
Sports? Ugh. Boo.
How about this? Steak or fish?
Steak. Fish are friends, not food.
Ooh, I like that. Favorite cut of steak?
Whatever one's served to me, honestly, I'm going to eat them all. Look, I don't get this one.
Oh my gosh.
I want me some steak.
This woman wants her steak. That's all she wants. I love it.
Bring it over here.
Yay alcohol or boo alcohol?
Boo. Gross.
Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Don't know. Don't like rock.
Favorite genre of music?
Like trashy top 40. Like trashy. Like anything that's bouncy. Okay. I like.
If you had to choose, though, would you choose West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
I don't know. Canada? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
That's East Coast. I guess hey, there's trappers. There's drill music in Canada that I know of, and it's pretty raw. So I guess we would say Canada. We'll go to East Coast then.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, geography was never my thing.
Okay, little word association. First thing to come to mind: milk.
Tits. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
We just became best friends. Thank you, Caila. That was epic. I love it. 4x2.
Amazing.
Coco.
Husk.
Weekly water changes.
Ew.
First time ball python breeder.
Do better.
How about this? No matter who it is, favorite ball python breeder?
Matt from Ball Brilliance, because he's my friend. Or Cat and Row from Inked Lady Morphs. I love them too.
Stuck shed.
Can be avoided.
FedEx shipping.
Don't do it during Christmas.
Fish Head Labs.
Fuck yeah.
Conservation.
Pardon me?
Conservation.
Yay.
What's one thing, and this is the last one, okay? one thing we could all do better as reptile keepers, what would it be?
Share the love and the passion with the entire community, and don't judge people because they keep a certain way. Instead, have open dialogue, because communication can solve everything, as we're seeing today.
I'm hoping to God this episode was like a Tide stick. And you want to know what I mean by Tide stick? You know those things that could get stains out? And Caila, I heard I was a big stain in the hobby. And do you think that this episode that is potentially a Tide stick maybe cleaned me up a little bit as a stain? What would you say? I got to hear it from you.
I would say that it has repaired your and I relationship. So I feel like we're on a good page. We're on a good page if this is genuine and we're moving forward in a positive way. So if I hear more, fuck your 4 foot by 2 foot, Caila's not going to be happy. But, you know, I think if you can kind of dig yourself out of this hole and mend things up with people the way that you and I have done it, if they'll give you the opportunity and if you give them the opportunity, I think that we can just all move forward in a better way.
Yeah. Well, listen, I feel like things come in strides, things come as they come. And I feel like this was a really huge step forward for the whole industry. You know what I mean? Because we have the breeder side and we have the pet keeping side coming together. And I feel like this was a powerful 2 hour and 20-minute episode. But guys, that's a wrap for Jube and friends. And of course, Caila, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Caila, honestly, I got to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. You didn't have to, but you did. And I got to say thank you so much for letting me bring you on the show and getting this in. And I got to say, this is going to be round 2 worthy. I will have you back on the show. We will continue this. We'll
find some more stuff. I'm sure it'll pop up. So we'll do it. But hey, you know what? I even cried on this episode. So things were strong here. This was a powerful one for sure.
Powerful, but good and positive. Enjoy the rest of your night, Caila. We'll be talking soon. And thank you so much. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
Bye, Caila. What a sweet gal. Seriously, what an awesome girl for the hobby. Thank you to everyone who came and supported Caila. Appreciate you so much. Go give her a follow on Instagram, Jube and friends. Shout out to the sponsor again, Freedom Breeder, #1 stainless steel racks built in the United States. Head over to freedombreeder.com. Get yourself a Freedom Breeder rack. If you got a Freedom Breeder rack, you know where you're at with this, the professional level of rodent and snake or reptile keeping. Shit, you can put a lot in the Freedom Breeder rack, I'm not gonna lie. And then, of course, shout out to Focus Cube Habitats. The future of enclosure is here. If you guys did not understand on what level Focus Cube is really at, I mean, go back and listen to this podcast. We laid it out there for you guys, and they are the truth. Both of these companies are the truth. And thank you, everyone out there. And if this was your first time tapping in, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're on top of every single podcast that we drop here. And again, guys, go first and foremost, shout out to my Patreon members. If you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to tap in more than what you see here, please head down to the very first link that you see and click on the Trap Talk Patreon link. Join the Patreon family. As soon as you join the family, you get a link to the Discord with over 150 trappers in the building. And yes, I love you, my Patreon members. Thank you for everything, all the positivity, and even my followers and just people who fuck with me. Thank you so much. Go give me a follow on Instagram, Trap Talk God 619, and follow the podcast's page as well on IG and Facebook, the Trap Talk Podcast. Guys, I love you so much. Be ready. It's going to be going down this Sunday. Holy Gecko sessions coming right back at you. I know it's been a couple weeks, but we have Morph Menagerie. I hope I said that right. I did not say that right. It's M-E. I know, guys, this looks pretty bad because I'm waiting on their logo, and I did what I could with it, and God bless. I'm not perfect. You guys know I'm not perfect. But this episode was perfect. I really feel like this episode was perfect. Guys, thank you so much. Caila, thank you so much. Jube, thank you so much, buddy. Keep it up, guys. I love everything. I love everyone. Great hobby, great life. This is the best hobby to be a part of. And thank you for being here with me. See you guys next time, and I'm out.